There we go. I think I
Either of you, you're not hearing a very loud hum in the background of my audio or anything?
Not really.
Nope,
Okay.
I
hear more.
anything.
I hear more like background noise from Peeve than you.
Really?
Really? With that expensive recording setup, Peeve has?
What's it sound like?
It sounds like you have a fan on in the background.
Oh yeah, I have my AC on, but not a chance is that getting shut off.
Oh yeah, no, I have mine on too for the same reason.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Not
you
a
know,
chance.
all of Peeve's fancy software and hardware and recording crap.
Dude, it's this is as good as it gets.
I will tell you this.
I
much,
just
Peeve.
turned the mic away a bit, so it's probably a little better.
I will tell you this much: your recording stuff is so good that I can hear your air conditioning machine so well.
There you go.
Do you remember what it was like before that? Were you around back
yes.
whenever I was in the room behind me before I moved it all into here, and I was like 3 feet away from the AC, and I had the traffic louder than ever because I was I was in the room that's on the intersection.
Oh god.
And it's got very thin walls, and I'm hearing traffic from both sides of the road, like as if I'm in the middle of the intersection. It was so bad, and there was just a constant just static behind my streams, and people were like, I like the air conditioner sound, it's very relaxing, like because it's white noise. They liked it because it was like a good stream to go to sleep to because you had an infinite white noise behind it. So
Speak of the devil.
yeah. Speaking of sounds, I don't care how good my audio equipment is, that will never get drowned out.
You can't.
There are sometimes, if I'm not talking, there are sometimes where like sirens like that are as loud as these are, which are pretty loud. They'll pass by and I'll watch like my audio equipment and it won't pick them up. And I'm just like, wow, okay, that's impressive.
Wow.
But the odds are I'll be talking, like if I'm streaming or something, so you're gonna hear it, unless I shut up while they pass.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah, give me a second though. I'll be right back.
Yep.
I'm all set. I've got a fresh pot of tea ready and waiting to go. Oh, good man. You drink tea too.
I would be lying if I had any idea, or if I said I had any idea about the stuff I was drinking. I just happened to like. I started like when I was in high school, or I guess it was like the later years of high school. I started going out with my friends to sushi, and they had this like Japanese green tea at like a sushi restaurant or whatever, and I fucking loved it, and
you and I have that same experience in common. That's amazing.
Yeah, so and then I would I saw some stuff at the supermarket or Costco or whatever, and maybe not Costco, but like I saw some stuff whatever, and I just started buying it, and I bought tea for like the longest time.
Oh, good man. I'll have to send you some stuff then. My parents in Connecticut live literally half an hour from the flagship Harney and Sons store in Millerton.
I remember you mentioning that on your Bloodborne. I think it was like the second episode of your Bloodborne playthrough. You talking about?
Oh, you actually watch my videos,
yeah, dude. Of course. I've seen them all. So.
Ah, awesome. Yeah, I'll have to arrange to have some stuff sent to you then, because they've carried just such a fantastic lineup, such a diverse, wide variety of stuff I know you'd love.
But I definitely have not strayed very far from that sushi restaurant type tea.
Sencha, that'll be green tea.
The green tea like that.
Oh, I can arrange for you to get some really, really excellent versions of that. One of Marcus's favorites is Matcha Iri Genmai Cha, which is basically that same kind of tea, but it also has roasted puffed rice in it and matcha powder, which is a really, really fine, high-grade powdered green tea leaf from the same type of tea. Is
that common that they put like roasted like rice, stuff like that in the actual little packets or whatever? Because the one restaurant that I go to, literally like 2 minutes from my house, I can walk there in like 10 minutes.
You lucky bastard.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. But they give you just this little glass or like a little mug, little tea pouch, and the tea pouch has the green tea leaves, and then there's all this other like stuff
Yep.
in there. Without, I wasn't aware
Yep.
that was there. Basically,
Yeah, they do. That's well, there are many different types of Japanese tea and many different types of other kinds of tea from around the world. Asia and India are most famous for their tea. Sri Lanka as well. Sri Lanka used to be called Ceylon, and that's why you get all of the brands of teas that are still called Ceylon tea. Because I guess for nostalgia's sake, people still use the name Ceylon to refer to Sri Lanka. But those are the main tea producing regions of the world in general. And in Japan in particular, there are some very unique varieties of tea that have originated in that country specifically. Matcha iri genmai cha is one of those. It was basically a way of allowing people to get some really good quality tea for cheap, because they take a basic, fairly decent quality sencha, which is the ordinary green tea.
Sure.
And they cut that with matcha, which is generally a very high quality and very expensive product. They'll throw in the puffed rice to add some of that nice roasty, toasty flavor, and then they'll dust all of that stuff in the matcha to add some depth and richness to it. It literally almost makes it creamy.
Huh.
And so what you get is that same green tea flavor, but stronger and more creamy and richer, and with an additional kind of toastiness from the rice. It's fantastic. It's incredible stuff.
Huh.
One of the other kinds of teas that I really love personally, a Japanese tea, is called hojicha, which is a type of tea. Brilliant. They may be really backwards in terms of their game development policies, but boy, when it comes to tea, the Japanese really know what they're doing. They somebody at some point got the idea to take the twigs from the tea leaves, just the twigs, like not actually the leaves themselves. Yeah. Because the twigs are considered kind of an undesirable part of the plant. Usually they're just thrown away after the leaves are harvested and plucked and then used for making other types of tea. Somebody decided to gather up all of the twigs, roast them over a fire, and then brew those into tea. And the flavor those produce is incredible. And then that's hojicha.
It's me, Peeve Peverson.
Welcome back, Peeve Peverson.
Yay.
How are you holding up, my friend? Not too tired, I hope?
No, I did just grab a Starbucks Frappuccino mocha coconut.
What the? You went to Starbucks and got back in this amount of...
No. One of those...
I was gonna say.
You have a Starbucks like right next to my front door.
Right,
no, it's
right.
It's one of those the little glass bottles.
Oh, okay. The bottle. I got
the pre-made ones.
Okay, I see. Well, it's not Surge, but it works. Is it any good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Glad to hear
I'm not
that.
really a big fan of like coffee flavors and stuff. But this is really good.
Well, there's a first time for everything. Those sorts of things are like gateway drugs, Peeve. You try one, you like it. Pretty soon, you'll be drinking Earl Grey along with me.
Oh no. I do not drink Earl Grey because it's trash.
Wow, rude.
I knew you were going to say that.
Earl Grey, even with sugar to sweeten it as much as you want, still tastes like bad breath. It's got this aftertaste that just tastes like you're just drinking someone's bad breath.
You've not had good Earl Grey, Peeve, but a moot point, because I'm going to send you some stuff that's not Earl Grey that I think you'll really like nonetheless.
Oh, okay.
Frosty, what do you have?
Hold on. Hold on a moment. Okay, let me know if this works. So...
Oh God!
Yeah, it's a Google image thing. So if you open it up,
nope
on this,
He's
it should be
Jim, is what it
the
says.
third picture on the second row.
Third picture on the second. Oh, okay. Oh, Uji no Sako?
Yes, that.
Okay, yep. I'm familiar with this brand. This is kind of the mid-grade green tea that you can get at some supermarkets, but usually only ethnic grocery stores.
Yeah, so this is the crap that I've been drinking.
I see.
But I love it. Oh, I love it so much.
I scroll down and I see what seem to be like fried cheese sticks, I think.
It's not unheard of. They love fried food in Japan, Peeve.
Yes, I'm okay with this.
I feel like I feel like if Steve could get his chicken cordon bleus or whatever, just mold it into tea form, that's all he would drink.
Tea form? Oh god. Well, what was it? Someone posted
Disgusting.
Someone posted a picture
idea.
on Twitter. Someone posted a picture on Twitter of Brandon's favorite pizza, and it was like a slice of pizza with smaller slices of pizza on it.
No, Brandon's favorite pizza is a pizza. It's a grape syrupy just trash popsicle with a cheese pizza rolled around it. That's his favorite pizza.
I asked him about that, actually, because this is not the first time you've speculated this. I asked him if he would actually eat that, and I'm fairly sure I remember him saying he would.
Well, yeah, that's what he does. He'll eat a slice of pizza. He'll not even the whole slice. He has on one. It's probably on the same plate, knowing him. He'll have the cheese pizza slices, and then
Just
on the
let
side,
loose on Brandon.
well, on the side he has different flavors of popsicles, and like I'm talking like the most standard generic popsicle ever, where you open the package and you pull it off and there's just that slimy flavor syrup attached to it. That's the kind he eats.
Yep,
So-
I know exactly the popsicles you're talking about.
that are like covered in like the heavy syrup. So he has those on the plate as well, and he'll take a few bites of pizza, and then he'll take a bite of one of the popsicles, then a few more bites of pizza, and then a bite of one of the popsicles. And it's like, maybe I could understand eating a bunch of pizza, relax in a moment, and be like, I want a popsicle. But to eat them simultaneously,
Have you
it
witnessed
just sounds
this?
so gross.
You know
No,
what?
no. But he showed me like pictures of the popsicles he
Oh,
eats. It's
God.
You know
like-
what? Good for Brandon.
Yeah.
He truly does not give a fuck. Good for Brandon.
No,
I
guess-
love it. Like,
He's a man who knows what he likes.
And I've said it before, I'll say it again. There was one instance where I was talking to him. I was like, "Oh, what are you eating?" He's like, "Oh, I got my pizza, and my popsicles," and I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I hear him like opening a package. I'm like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, I got some Reese's cups too." And he's like, "These are good." And I'm like, "Wait. Did you finish your pizza yet?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Did you finish your popsicles?" He's like, "No." Yeah, I'm like, "So you're eating pizza, a few bites of popsicles, and like a Reese's cup, all mixed in together?" He's like, "Yeah, why not?"
Jam
And I'm
them
like,
all in your
"Oh
mouth at the
my
same time.
God, pretty much. And it's technically the same crap, but it's just the thought of it is just
Well, yeah,
so much
quite
worse.
literally, it is the same. It's all going to the same place, I guess. Maybe.
how
Yeah, true.
is he still
Alive? I don't know.
Not
Like,
dead.
how
alive.
is he
He's-
still walking around? Like,
I don't know.
No, it's,
I do not
it's-
know.
but the next time you guys meet up with him at a Twitch con, he's going to be just in a wheelbarrow, and there'll be like 2 Twitch moderators pushing him.
no, he's like the skinniest, tiniest fucking kid. Like, I don't understand the stuff that he eats. He should be like sumo wrestling in Japan. Like, I don't know.
Well, I
I
don't
think
know.
I think he eats them. Oh boy, gonna.
I'm gonna push you out of the ring. Oh boy. Just gotta go fast.
Oh boy,
Jesus.
I can't.
gonna do it for my wounds.
This is what Brandon gets for not being part of the podcast. So this
You
is
know, I
I'm okay with this. I like this.
I talked to him this morning. It was like, Brandon, are you going to be able to make it? He was like, I might try, but I want to spend some time with my girlfriend. And I was like, you know what? Fair enough. She's only going to be with you for a couple of weeks. You get to see her maybe once a year. Fine. I didn't think I should warn him that this would happen. So, Brandon, if you're listening to this now, I'm sorry.
well.
I'm not.
So that
I know you're not.
So I guess that's what Brandon's been up to. But how about you guys?
Jesus.
Ooh, Peeve. We just we spent some time watching you get steamrolled by German. That was very fun.
First of all, it's Gehrman. Get it right. He's the
Nope.
best boss ever, and you should treat him as such. Second of all, that never happened.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You beat it on the
there.
first First try.
The first try, right? Yeah.
I wish you could see the air quotes that I'm making right now, but first
Well,
try.
No.
Our viewers are no strangers to the internet. They have imaginations.
I know.
Their imaginations are probably horribly scarred from the internet, honestly.
I know you had a
Most likely.
broadcast today. Spy. What were you playing
me?
again?
Wait.
Dude,
Wait.
Did you not know?
No, you're lying.
No,
You're
well,
lying.
I didn't. Not on my own channel, Peeve. This is the thing. Like, I joined a couple of my other friends on the Bitterbits channel. We played Final Fantasy VIII for a few hours leading up to now. And I had mentioned this to you before, actually, Peeve, in case you had wanted to join us. But I know that you had a very important date with
Oh
German.
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't get back to you on that. Sorry.
That's okay. Another time. Quite all right.
Yeah.
But no, that's what I've been doing for most of the evening / early morning.
So for anyone who may be listening, our good friend AGermanSpy, as of I believe he said this next week he's going to start streaming on Twitch on his own
what?
channel. Twitch.tv/AGermanSpy with underscores.
Pete, you're not supposed to tell anybody.
_German_spy. Twitch.tv.
Peeve, let's be fair about this. In all honesty, if you're going to direct people anywhere, direct them to Twitch, whatever the URL is, /Bitterbits, because that's pretty much where I've been streaming for the entirety of. I've done it for the past couple of weekends, actually. Send the traffic there, because if you send people to my Twitch page, nothing is going to be going on.
That's a lie.
No, I'm serious.
You don't have to play the modest card. You know, we all know next week it's going to be a big grand opening. You know,
You're going to get to my Twitch page, and it'll just be a redirect that sends you to Bitterbits.
You know what? I'll take it. Baby steps.
We need to get Spy just a huge following on his Twitch channel, to where just to prove that a bunch of people want to watch him stream, and then he just won't have a choice.
The thing is, Pete, I from my limited experience streaming up to now, I need someone to either manage the chat or play the game. I can't do both.
But yeah, that's what mods are for.
Yeah.
Well, but who am I gonna? Are you gonna mod for me?
Sure.
Gladly, yes.
Really?
I would gladly mod for you. Yep.
Wow, I'm actually legitimately honored.
I'm looking at your channel right now. You have 335 followers and you haven't done anything yet.
No, that's because you keep sending people to my Twitch page.
Spy's going to get partnered before he even has a recording on his channel.
I don't think I could keep up a regular enough schedule to be a partner. They'd hate me. They'd be like, "Who is this guy, Peeve, and why did you recommend him? All he does is talk about tea."
You could have some sweet emo. You could have tea emotes.
Oh God.
Spy tea. Or a spy spy hat. It could be your little hat.
You know, in all honesty, Peeve, I have given some thought to the matter lately. I went and read through some of Twitch's literature, but I don't think they'd accept me for partnership, for one thing, and for another, I almost just as soon, like, I feel more comfortable just invading your stream periodically and then doing stuff with my friends on Bitterbits.
Yeah, no, that's okay, but you should totally stream yourself
See,
too.
I understand that argument. I understand that argument perfectly well, but like
that's terrible.
Frosty,
just for the sake of a pun.
I appreciate it, but it is
very bad one.
Well,
pretty bad.
No one will know because it'll get edited out of the podcast.
You can't edit it out after you've said that.
It's gonna it'd be a good emote, and then it's gonna go to the next subject.
You're obligated to leave it in.
No,
now.
what I'm gonna do. People who are watching or listening are gonna know what's already happened. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna have a very obvious cut, where it's just like a side, like a very obvious cut, and that's what we're gonna have. So,
well, okay,
good.
Fair enough, I guess. But yeah, no, that like. Honestly, if you want to encourage me to stream more frequently, Peeve, give Bitterbits a host now and again, because I've pretty much been streaming with them for the past several weekends.
Okay, that sounds doable.
Cool. That if you're gonna try and blackmail me into streaming, then I'm obligated to show up if you're hosting them. Don't tell Peeve that though. I don't want him finding out that he can manipulate me like that.
Seriously though, you have a ton of people who would enjoy watching, and you enjoy doing it because I see you on my stream, like whenever you're on the mic with me, and you. How long did you the first time you were on my stream? How long? Whenever I was playing Bloodborne, how long did you stay on my stream? It was ridiculous.
Wasn't that the day that you went for like 24 hours and then kept on going?
One of the days, yes.
One of.
But I think you stuck around for like 11 hours or something absurd.
It was a weekend, yeah. Yeah, well, no, I did. I was there when he first got the make contact.
It was the make contact stream. I remember Spy eventually went hollow because I couldn't figure out what the gesture was for, and I was making contact with everything. And so he was like, "Oh my God, Peeve, I need to go to sleep. Just let me tell you." Freaking out.
I was Peeve. I don't dispute that I enjoy streaming, but I just enjoy it so much more when I have my friends along. You know, like you, Frosty,
you could have,
Nick.
You could have guests on your stream, and you could do a bunch of stuff with your stream that's sorry, I have kittens tearing up the chair.
Those little monsters.
Do you hear that?
I
like
hear
the popping?
Oh, I know it.
That's one of them laying into my chair.
I know that sound exactly. The sound of little claws pulling on upholstery. I know it well.
Yep. But no, you could have all these different just events or have guest appearances on your stream. You could turn it into a talk show. You could have your own talk show. It'd be fantastic.
But aren't you supposed to only stream video games on Twitch?
Nonsense.
Well, you could be first of all, you could be streaming a game and like have guests or whatever while you stream and talk. Or you can there's a section now called gaming talk shows.
Really?
They have a gaming talk shows category, and you can just I think one of the rules is if it's I'm not certain about this, but it has to have some kind of game like on. So as long as you have something in the background, like I was considering doing something where I go like AFK in Bloodborne somewhere and like sit down, like have my character sitting down like in game, and that's like the area for like the talk show or whatever.
Oh, you mean and blatantly circumvent the regulation?
Well, but it'd be more like a themed kind of thing, like go and sit down like in the Grand Cathedral or something.
Gotcha.
But then you'd get randoms like coming in, going like, "Why don't you play and do something?" So it wouldn't really work.
Yeah, I don't think the reception to that would.
You could just ban them all. It'd be amazing. You get a ban.
Don't you bite my pop filter?
Oh yeah, kittens love pop filters, especially foam ones.
These two are crawling all over me right now, just scratching up everything.
Well, you're their daddy now, Peeve. You chose that. What can I say, man?
Little bastards.
So what else have you guys been up to? Anything else?
Drinking tea.
Yes, tea is fantastic.
I destroyed that mocha coconut frappuccino just now.
Oh yeah,
it was so good. What? Don't laugh at me.
No,
it was good.
We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you, Peeve.
No, I'm laughing at Peeve.
Jeez. Okay.
Why?
Lay it out. Why don't
It's
you?
delicious.
Fair enough.
It's delicious. Shut up.
So how about that?
Yeah, there's this game I think we were discussing, maybe talking about on the podcast.
Well, the problem is Pete took so fucking long to kill German. We already talked about the patch and all this other stuff, which is spy.
We can rehash it a little bit.
Sorry.
No, it's Peeve had to settle his scores, Frosty. Give him a break.
Fair enough.
I did.
Although, Peeve, would you like me to ruin something for you?
Ruin something for me.
Have you ever
about Bloodborne?
No. Well, have you ever noticed that when Gehrman is in his wheelchair, he's wearing kind of a rumpled, wide-brimmed hat and his Gehrman clothes, and when he stands up, he's wearing a top hat and the Charred Hunter set?
Yeah, he changes.
Because
he's got to get into his hunter fighting uniform.
He changes it over the course of a cut from one scene to another.
But that's no, it makes sense though because it's a dream, so he can do that.
It's a dream.
It reminds you it's a dream because he stands up and he's like no matter, and he's in like his hunter gear, and it's reminiscent
host
of
the
like
nightmare.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of like a dream where it's like all of a sudden like you're in a snap, you're like in another area or something else is going on. So it's I like it. I've thought about that before.
I've had some weird dreams, but I've never gone from wearing a fedora to a top hat. Gehrman doesn't wear a fedora. Why did I say that? Wow.
McGehrman.
Well, that's officially canon now.
McGehrman.
That emote is going to show up within a matter of days of this podcast going up.
I think the hideous Mne emote is
God.
more than enough.
Boy, is that hideous. Oh, so are we actually going to bother talking about that game we were going to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Suppose we could.
Okay, all right. Well, we were, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I might not be correct, because being correct isn't always... Point is, we were thinking about discussing the patch changes in 1.04. For starters, wherever it goes, I guess, but maybe that's our springboard. Or maybe we just talk about tea for the next hour. That's okay with me.
Either way, it works. But so many new, exciting... awesome things about the new patch, and all I see...
I guess I better pull that up then.
And all I
Peeve,
see
do
on
you have
Reddit...
a link?
No. Can somebody link me?
Yeah, I got it.
I know what you're gonna say, Frosty. All you see on Reddit is about how there can now be like level 500 gank squads. Anywhere.
Okay,
yeah.
hold on. I linked the article to the Spy a little bit earlier. One of the titles on one of the threads on Reddit is literally why Bloodborne's 1.04 patch is fundamentally damaging. Like verbatim. Like the new patch has ruined Bloodborne. Oh my god, you can summon people.
Because it was perfect before.
Yes, well that's just...
It's like on the one hand though, if a level 20 can summon a level 500, that's stupid, game breaking, and you're going to have people who are also level 20 invading them and having to fight level 500s and not standing a chance.
It only works when the password is being used, I was under the impression.
So,
okay,
yeah.
So if you are level 500 and I am level 20 and I summon you in to my world to do PvE, some people are going to say that that's game breaking, that it makes my playthrough so much easier because I have some level 500 person running through the game for me. But it's my playthrough to ruin.
Yeah. Oh no.
You know
that's
what I mean?
that's not a problem. I'm worried about the people who will invade into that playthrough and just get annihilated.
See, I can understand that, but my problem is that unless you're looking at very low level PvP, I don't see it being that much of a difference. I really don't. Like if you're at level 100, right? You've got an actual PvP build, and you're invading someone who's hosting with like level 500 phantoms, or I don't even know what they're called, hunters in
cooperators, I think is the term they use.
Yeah, so level 500 cooperators, right? In the other area, the fact that they're level 500 instead of 100, due to the way this game is set up, first off, is very not significant.
Well, you ran some numbers on this too, didn't you, Frosty? And
yeah, I've been doing a lot of number crunching lately. We've kind of been trying to figure out a damage formula for Bloodborne, which is actually going pretty good. But basically, diminishing returns are so harsh in this game that once you get above like 120, it's really not much of a deal. Like the only thing that you're really going to gain from going up to like higher levels than 110, potentially more health, like you can get 99 vitality, and you can like round out your damage stats a bit. You can get like more utility. You can actually increase your weapon strength and things like that, or your gun strength, but also have like a good strength weapon and a dex weapon. But I mean, you can only have 2 weapons ever equipped at one time, unless you're menu swapping, but the menu swapping in this is really slow. It doesn't seem like it makes that much of a difference. There are so many other things that make a bigger deal to, you know, the invading player being at a disadvantage against people who are like sitting there with a gank squad of like 2 or 3 or 4, or can they have 4 like enemies? 3 is the most.
3 in total,
3.
I think.
But
right?
Yeah, like if you're joining someone's world and there's 3 people sitting there ready to kill you, the fact that one of them might be like level 500 instead of 100 is so seemingly inconsequential to all of the other disadvantages that invading player is going to be in. He's got 30% less HP.
The HP
The fact
loss.
that it's a fucking 3v1 is kind of a big deal. Like, you know, there's so many other things that are more significant than just...
Well, and...
The way...
go ahead,
What are you
Peeve.
gonna say?
Go ahead, Peeve.
I was gonna say, in Dark Souls 1, we were dealing with, I get at level 100 and 120, you could invade a gang squad of like level 700s and hold your own.
But that's kind of how this game is set up too. The way the diminishing returns are.
The way the diminishing returns work, it does kind of feel like that. But then you also have but it plays so different. I don't know if you can really compare like the scenarios. But yeah, if that is the case, then it's not that big of a deal. For me though, it's just the fact that you're gonna have these gang squads now that aren't gang squads. Just most people who are there to piss anyone off, you know, for the sake of ganking and just being a dick. Like I'm not talking about. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, they're just going through level. Yes, I understand that if they're going through level being the game. Okay, I'm talking about the ones who are sitting there waiting for PvP to jump people, hoping for hate mail, like that kind of scenario. Those people, since they now have this ability, what's keeping them from just saying, screw sticking around whatever the supposed meta is? Let's just have one of us be a host at level 20 and let's just destroy noobs who can't even touch us over and over and over and over. So the gank squad meta will be really low because it's more hate for less effort. So I don't know, I could see a lot of people doing that.
On one hand, how many people actually invade at level 20?
Exactly.
Did.
What I mean...
Well, I tried, but I got no action anywhere at level 20.
I was getting action, but it was a mistake because a lot of the action I was getting, this may be because I was streaming. I was invading like level 60s, and a level 20 versus a level 60, I couldn't do any damage to them. So a level 20 versus a level 500, you're practically going up someone who's completely invincible. So it's like it would just, I think, deter a lot of people from a lot of things.
I'm not going to lie. I think the fact that you are doing most of this stuff while streaming is really the reason you have as much connections as you do. I don't
think
that somebody just playing through the game who's trying to invade in other areas just by themselves, not on a stream or anything like that, is really going to get much action just because of the way the game's kind of set up. And if it's the case that all you really fight are these gank squads, I mean, then just don't do low level PvP. As shitty as that sounds, but the way the game's set up, I mean, the only way you're really going to be invading in other areas is if there's a Bell Maiden spawned. The only way you're going to have a Bell Maiden spawn is if somebody else is ringing their sinister bell, or if somebody else is summoning help. And, you know, most people that summon help as they're trying to just play through the game, there's really not enough time for there to also summon in a Bell Maiden, and then also have that Bell Maiden summon in an invading player, and then the invading player actually...
Or else they'll just find the Bell Maiden and kill her.
Exactly. So...
And the Bell Maidens don't come back. Even after the patch, they don't come back.
So I feel like it's just not likely to be the case. The only real area you can get that kind of constant PvP is the Nightmare areas. Nightmare Frontier, the Murgo...
Mensis.
Yeah, the Nightmare Mensis as well. Because there's legitimate... Bell Maidens there that just constantly spawn. But how many level 20s are in the fucking Nightmare Frontier or in
They don't constantly. Wait, do they constantly spawn?
The Bellmaiden? No, you can permanently kill the one in Mensis.
If I say constantly spawn, I mean they spawn by default. I should say. I may have misspoke.
No. If you kill one, and then you die or leave the area or whatever, it's still going to be dead.
Yeah, they don't come back.
But what I'm saying is,
life,
at least in those areas, someone playing through the game, it's there by default, rather than.
You have to actually call it in, yeah. And you have to get... The thing is, in order to get to the Bellmaiden in Mensis, all you have to do is speed run across the bridge, and boom, you're there, and she's dead. Like, you can literally get to her, as you said, before the game has another chance, any chance, to connect someone with the Bellmaiden. This is an issue that, Peeve, you brought this up last time I spoke with you as well as a concern. Just that the way the PvP works in this game, fundamentally drives away the PvP community even further, alienates them by really isolating them and restricting opportunities to do PvP. The fact that there has to be a Bellmaiden, there have to be people in the same level range to do PvP as the host, because you can't do PvP matching with a password. That's only for co-op. You still are dependent upon level range for PvP, and thank God, because, being able to invade, we don't want the soul memory problem all over again. But the other side of that is that PvP is so restricted in this game that no matter where you invade or at what level, you're only really going to get consistent action in the 2 nightmare areas at or around whatever the common level for people to be at that point in the game is. And not even in the Chalice dungeons. Like, they went out of their way to create the short ritual route Chalice with the quick Chalice dungeon adversarial matching feature. Nobody can do it because A, none of the dungeons except the sinister ones have Bellmaidens in them in the first place, and B, you can't... Nobody plays the sinister dungeons online because they don't want to be...
Yeah, and then even whenever you get a sinister Chalice, you can put it on the pedestal and disable the sinister challenge.
Yeah, you set it to private. Nobody can match up with you.
Yeah, well, and it's got like a little check mark, and you can turn off the sinister chalice.
Oh, nice! I didn't even know that.
I'm fairly certain. Yeah. And it's like,
I know you can do that with some of the other ones.
No.
But yeah, no.
The fact that they turned it into just they completely got rid of non-consensual PvP essentially, and it saddens me so much. It's like
same. And Frosty and I were talking about this before we started recording, or maybe after we started, depending, Frosty, on where you choose to cut that in. But
I have no idea. we'll figure that out.
Well, you'll figure it out, yeah. But we were talking about this as well. The fact that in so many ways, the PvP in this game has just... they've sterilized it. They've sterilized multiplayer in getting PvP out of it. And I really feel like they were pitching Bloodborne to the casual gamer that doesn't want non-consensual PvP, that just wants to go about the game and plod through it, and not worry about that danger that you might be invaded. Giving people a way to turn off invasions by killing the Bellmaiden, like... That's unprecedented.
They can already just be
offline.
Especially now that it says play offline at the start. And I promise you, I want to throw out a percentage that I made up in my head so bad, but I'm not going to do it. But I promise you, a very, very, very large... Sorry if you're hearing a beep. I don't know if you hear that. My PlayStation 4 beeps while it's off now. I don't know why.
Huh.
Yeah, that's another story. But
okay.
There's I promise you there's a large amount of the community, or would-be community, that they never played another Souls game or whatever. They saw the Bloodborne hype, they got excited for it, and they went to play it, and it says play online, play offline. And they know that the invasion feature is a thing, and they don't have any friends they plan to co-op with. I promise you a large amount of them were like, I'll do my first playthrough offline.
Yep.
And if I choose later on to to do a second playthrough. I might do it online. So I have a feeling that there's just this huge group of newcomers that could have potentially have like really liked the PvP or really liked the co-op feature or something, who just missed out on all of it because right there on the title screen, and I was worried about this with Dark Souls 2. I thought they were going to pull this with Dark Souls 2. Instead, they pulled it with Bloodborne. Right on the title screen, it says play online, play offline. And yes, they could always unplug it, but a lot of people like to have their friends list up and stuff like that. So a lot of people won't go through the trouble to
receive
just,
PSN messages
unplug
or
the
hate mail.
Ethernet cable or whatever. Yeah. People want access to their online features while playing whatever game they're playing. But so a lot of people wouldn't do it. But now that it's an option from the start, I have a feeling just the community is so it is so much smaller than it could have been if they didn't have that option there. I think that just sucked away a bunch of newcomers. And also, give me a second. I'm gonna unplug my PS4.
Jesus Christ!
Do you hear the?
I didn't want to say it. I thought it was a microwave for the longest time, and then you said it was.
Oh, I thought it was your air conditioner.
No, my PS4, I don't know why. It's just beep, 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 like every 10 seconds. About to do it right now. Watch.
Everybody listen.
Okay. Everyone listen.
There it is.
There it is. Yep.
Right on schedule.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep. So let me go unplug it because I don't know how to fix it.
No problem. God. Boy, and we thought it was just Bloodborne. Actually, everything Sony makes is broken. No, I shouldn't say that. They made an SD card a few years ago that was okay.
A few years ago, it was this obscure SD card, but that was like kind of okay. But.
Actually, I shouldn't even say that because as early as a few years ago, everything Sony was proprietary, and you couldn't actually get it to work with anything that was not made by Sony.
That's a fair point.
Thanks, Sony.
But so I mean, this is kind of an interesting discussion. I mean, we did talk about matching and the matching system a little bit in the previous podcast, but that was with some different people. The one thing that I didn't really talk too much about before was, how is this relatively poor system for matchmaking going to affect the longevity of this game? I feel like that's going to be a huge detriment, because
that's one of the points that you and I had discussed before we started recording, and that I want to wait till Peeve gets back, because I think he's going to be able to weigh in on it quite a bit as well, but thoroughly agreed, and it's a perfect lead-in, regarding replay value of the previous games as opposed to Bloodborne. I have quite a lot to say on that, so just tell me to shut up if I'm overstaying my welcome, but I want Peeve back before I really get into it, because, I mean, you and I obviously we know how the other feels on it, but I'm curious as to what he's got to say about it, because I have a feeling. He lives.
Hi.
We were worried that you had, like, your PlayStation had blown up, or that your kittens had eaten you or something.
No. Long story short, one of the kittens insist on pooping in the litter box, but then peeing on anything that is soft, like the mat in the bathroom.
Oh.
So I have to sit there and, like, the moment he goes near the mat, like, scare him off and then wait for him to actually use the litter box.
Gotcha.
Little monster.
Well, if he's peeing on the bathroom mat, then he's not that different from most human men.
Well, it's a nice. I got a really nice bathroom, like a really nice like mat for the bathroom. That's like it's like a deep purple. It's like the same color as my logo. It's like that nice purple, and it's like a nice little carpeting, and he's peed on it like 3 times already.
Those kittens, man. They are brats. They will look for any opportunity they can find to just piss all over everything, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Such little trolls.
Anyways,
welcome back.
What we were talking about was I kind of brought up this point of, the way the system for matching in Bloodborne is really not conducive to multiplayer. So how do you think that's going to affect the game's longevity?
Well, you and I had talked about this before, but I wanted Peeve's input on it specifically. Like, Peeve, to get this rolling again, one of the main concerns that Frosty and I had come up with before we started was that when I think about how much time I spent playing Demon Souls, and you probably have spent equally large amounts of time playing it. I've got a good 4,000 hours in Demon Souls at least, and
I think you got me beat there, but yeah.
Really?
A little bit. Yeah, I played Demon Souls on like I started on my brother's PS3 because I didn't have it, and that account was probably like between 400 and 600 hours, and then whenever I got my PS3 and I could stream it, I put in an extra probably 1,200 hours.
Okay.
So I'm probably sitting around like 1,500 hours.
You know what though?
total.
That's fine. The point is,
and I'm embarrassed by
no,
it.
don't like. The point is though, Peeve, how much of that time was spent, or rather, how much of the replay value of that 1,500 hours was PvP?
Oh,
90%.
Oh yeah, we did do quite a bit of Fight Clubs. Actually, for me though, I would say probably 50-50, because what I do whenever I do a playthrough, I stream it and I just have people invade me as they can and hunt me down. So it's like I will be running through the stage and then boom, invasion. I'm getting invaded constantly.
Right.
So I would say it's an even like 50-50 because I will rarely sit there and
let
do
me
random
rephrase the
invasions
question
because there
then.
are no random invasions. For
Right,
If you
but I mean,
had
go ahead,
none
Frosty.
of that multiplayer interaction, would you still be doing those playthroughs in the same way?
Wait. Whenever you say in the same way, you mean
in the
trying
same
to
amount.
get PvP?
Like, would you have done as many playthroughs or something like that?
I would say a little bit less, but the reason why I'm able to play through Demon Souls so much is because I love the atmosphere of the game, and I actually do enjoy the PvE. So yeah, I would be still playing it a good bit.
Okay, because like what I was going for was I'm thinking a large part of the replayability of the Souls games, comes down to multiplayer. But for me, anyway, particularly a good probably 2,500 of my 4,000 hours in Demon Souls were PvP, both in random invasions and arranged. So to me, that was the vast majority of that game's replay value. And I'm totally with you. Like, I love the atmosphere of Demons. I love the PvE of Demons. As broken as it was in some ways, it just never gets old to me. But, that being said, you look at a game like Bloodborne, and this is kind of the comparison that Frosty and I were thinking of earlier. How much replay value do you think you're going to get out of the PvP in Bloodborne, stream sniping or not?
I said this, and I still don't know if I'm gonna regret saying this. I feel like because of Bloodborne's single player alone, I feel like Bloodborne is my favorite game out of the entire series, if you include in the series, just because I do enjoy the game world, I do enjoy the boss fights, I do enjoy the atmosphere. So I plan to play it regardless if I'm getting PvP or not, even though whenever I do it, I do like the Sinister Bell run or something. But if PvP wasn't even a thing, then I would still play through it a lot. But as much, I don't know.
Well, that's actually the best possible answer that you could have given, because it's an honest one. And I don't see any reason for you to regret that. Like, you gave an answer that I wasn't quite expecting, which in some ways also is good. But
Put it this way, though. Compare it to in comparison to Dark Souls 1, if Dark Souls 1's PvP wasn't there or wasn't easily attainable or something, which it sometimes isn't, but I would not have the 3,500 plus hours I do in Dark Souls 1 because because I don't like Dark Souls 1's PvE atmosphere. The game world to me is its invasion areas, because to me Dark Souls 1 is all about the PvP. Anytime I have to do PvE, I'm like a child, like just kicking and screaming through it, because I'll go through it, but it's like I do it like what's the word, begrudgingly.
Yes,
I don't really care to do it, because and a lot of people will probably want to strangle me for that, but Dark Souls 1's atmosphere and everything, I don't really care for it. It doesn't grab me. But the PvE is fantastic.
PvP,
And that being
yeah.
said, I did love my PvP. I did love my my like first, second, third playthrough of it, or I should say first, because my first playthrough was like 300 hours, but because I PvP'd like the whole time. But yeah, I did really enjoy like my first playthrough of Dark Souls 1. But as for like repetitive, like more playthroughs, just going through the game, I don't care to do it.
Well,
So I wouldn't. If it's the same question about Dark Souls 1, no, I would have quit a long time
but see,
ago.
that's what we were going for, is that you have at least a game in the Souls series that you feel that way about. That's really what I was expecting.
Yeah.
You would say that about Bloodborne. It didn't occur to me that you would say it about Dark Souls 1. But like you empathize with that feeling, right? That if not for the PvP, you would have stopped playing long before you did.
Yeah. By far. If not for the PvP in Dark Souls 1, I probably would have maybe done a second or third playthrough and done with it.
So that
Yeah.
that's fine though, because I get it. You know, everybody has different opinions about the Souls games and whichever one was their favorite. Demons is and always will be my favorite, even with Bloodborne. But like, this is the best example that I can give you. And Frosty, I didn't weigh in on this as well. But like, for me, Bloodborne is that. Like, the PvE in Bloodborne, I enjoyed the first time. Like, the best way I can describe it, it's something that I think I remember hearing from a waitress a while ago at a restaurant where I ordered a dessert, and it was one of those desserts that was really expensive and really tiny. And I made a comment about that to the waitress, and she came back with something like, yeah, it's like foreplay. It's over just when it's getting good. And that to me is Bloodborne. It's over just when it's getting good. Like, the PvE in Bloodborne is so short. The main game, it's a great main game, but it lacks content to such an extent, much more so than Demon Souls. I don't care what anyone may say. There are going to be people who are saying, but Spy, Demon Souls was a short game too. Yeah, but Demon Souls didn't lack content for how short it was.
Well,
No, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, what? I was going to say,
Yeah,
first of all, hi,
I was
Knutaf.
waiting. I was
Oh,
waiting
hey,
to say
welcome.
hello. Surprise! We have a
You
new
made
guest.
it after all.
Knutaf jumps in out of
Hello.
nowhere. Yay!
I just got home from dinner, so and I
Yes.
thought you
Glad
guys
you
might
could
be
make
on
it.
still.
Ah, yes.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome. But
I don't think I've ever actually talked to you
To
before.
whom? Oh, me? Well,
Spy.
nice to meet you. I don't believe we have, but it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance formally.
Spy is.
Thank you.
basically
Same to you.
best, so. You know.
Oh, no, I'm really not. I'm just some guy.
Yeah.
So what are we
Bloodborne,
talking
yes,
about?
we-
Bloodborne?
talking about like replay or
We were going through the patch details, but
replayability in terms of like the entire series, I guess, in
yeah,
comparison.
yeah. We were going through the fact that Peeve was just talking about how in Dark Souls 1, he felt like if not for the PvP in that game, he would have stopped playing well before he did.
Oh yeah, I would have stopped second and third playthrough. I would have been done
Yes,
with it.
and I was explaining that I feel kind of that way about Bloodborne, except that I did like the PvE in Bloodborne. I like the main game, but it's over just when it really starts getting good.
Yeah,
Like it's
a good way of putting it was it took each of my playthroughs in Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, and even Dark Souls 2 were around 60 hours for a first playthrough. Well, first playthrough Dark Souls 1 took 300 hours, but that's because 240 of those hours were me PvPing in the Painted World in Anne Orlando. So yeah, I refuse to go to New Game
Right,
Plus,
right.
because I didn't want to go through the game
Right.
again. That's why it took 300 hours, because I didn't want to just drudge through the game again. I don't know if that's
Trudge?
a word. Drudge. I made it
Trudges.
up.
Yeah.
Trudge. Okay.
we know what you're saying.
Yeah. So yeah. I would say each of those took 60 hours. Bloodborne took me 40 hours. So that
I
it's
think I
like,
clocked in at like 47.
yeah. It's significantly less, but I don't know. I think they relied on the Chalice dungeons to do a lot of the extra.
They did. That's the
content.
unfortunate thing. Like the
probably true.
Chalice dungeons and New Game Plus. But see, the way that you felt about New Game Plus in Dark Souls 1 is exactly the way I feel about it in Bloodborne. And You know, I don't really have an argument against the fact that New Game Plus in every Souls game, other than maybe Dark Souls 2, believe it or not. I never, thought I'd say this, but in most of the other Souls games, the New Game Plus is basically inflated stats of enemies. However, in the previous games, they are not inflated to anywhere near so egregious a degree as they are in Bloodborne. Bloodborne's New Game Plus 1 is equivalent to probably New Game Plus 2 or 3 of any of the other Souls games, for starters. For another thing, again, the game is just so... when I played through Bloodborne in retail the first time, I felt like I had seen everything the game had to show. Now, granted, I am somewhat biased on this because I knew even before the game was released in retail what a large part of what it contained, but even still, I went out of my way to get the full retail experience. I completed all the quests because I knew how from having worked on the guide. I went out of my way to do everything as I would have had I just bought it for the first time in retail. And even still, I walked away from it feeling like, it was a great playthrough. I had a lot of fun, but I have no reason to do New Game Plus, especially when I found out how inflated the enemy stats were in New Game Plus. I found out later that New Game Plus, their way of incentivizing you to do that was that it's the only way other than the 3 Chalice dungeons to get more blood rocks before patch 1.04. Yeah. And then even after the patch, it's still the only way unless you want to farm floor 3 or floor 4 bosses in the Chalice dungeons.
Yeah, I really don't mind. I don't know. I really like Bloodborne's story. I like Bloodborne's atmosphere, and I like a lot of the bosses, especially Gehrman. Gehrman to me is the end-all, be-all boss of the Souls series, and I don't think I'm ever gonna regret.
You
saying
love him
that.
so much, you just couldn't stop fighting him.
Before I regret saying that. Yeah, exactly. I love fighting, especially without I was doing the Beast Claw build,
yes.
No gun or anything, gunless Beast Claw build. That it just makes it that much more intense. I love the Gehrman fight so much.
That's what makes me so sad about Bloodborne, Peeve, is that Bloodborne, the main game, all of the content within the main game, that alone, for the most part, brilliant. The level design, some of the best we've ever seen from FromSoft, with all of the, the shortcuts and the layouts. The art direction, beautiful. I don't think they could have nailed it much harder than they did with the art direction. The boss design and enemy design, for the most part, really great. Of course, there were some elements of certain bosses that, with the Bloodletting Beast and Dark Beast Parl, the camera becomes severely problematic, and I do have some pretty severe complaints about that, but those are fairly minor compared to the fact that, overall, the design of the main game, pretty damn solid. It's a couple of the systems and then the content outside of the main game that really bothers me, especially in that, you just said it yourself, Peeve, but the game right now relies so heavily on the Chalice dungeons, which are just repetitive and grindy. It relies on those and on New Game Plus for replayability, and I don't think they really do it justice. How do the rest of you feel? It's time for me to shut up. What do you guys think?
I've asked this question before, but how much of that is a symptom of the fact that this is game 4? Or sorry, game 3 in... No,
We're not
I
counting
lied.
Dark Souls 2 then, I take
lied,
it.
sorry. It is game 4. Jesus Christ. But this is what I mean. There's so many...
No.
Yeah, exactly. Dark Souls 2 doesn't exist.
Dark Souls 2 doesn't count. We'll go with 3.
It's game 4 in the series, and, when is it time to take a chance and innovate? Whether or not you hit the mark is a different question. People are going to have varying opinions on that. But, do you think that they had to do something different? It's just that's kind of how.
I think that's what.
Yeah,
they felt.
I can understand.
I think
that,
they wanted to
at least from my perspective. But
well, when you say innovate, though, they did genuinely innovate in some ways. The regain system, by Soul series criteria, the regain system was an innovation. It's not a new idea, but it's a new idea in the context of Souls.
Sure, and it's a big deal in terms of how you actually play. First off, the game is faster. You have a more aggressive playstyle that fundamentally changes how people approach their characters. Because typically, I've seen numerous times my friends who are playing Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2 for the first time, they pick a big heavy shield, they pick big heavy armor, and they just snail's pace through everything.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Especially in Dark Souls too, with the Havel shield, like you could sit there and the infinite in sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to
No,
catch
that's
this
fine.
real
Go
quick.
for it.
In Dragon Area, they have the enemy with infinite stamina, actually, the big hammer guy, and if you have Havel shield and it's upgraded a good bit, even on your first playthrough, he will just wail on you and it'll do like nothing. I watched Man vs. Game sit there laughing at like going tee hee as that giant just wailed on his shield and couldn't break his guard with infinite stamina. It was
Well,
it was
to be
ridiculous,
fair, if you
but
try
sorry.
fighting that enemy with
Continue.
anything other than Havel's shield, you're dead.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you could easily just like snail's
Well, no, you
face through the
could.
game like
Well, I
Frosty
think
said.
that's what Miyazaki wanted to discourage in Bloodborne for that precise reason. That you could just hide behind a shield for the whole damn game and casual your way through. People call katanas the casual loadout. I think it's shields, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, point being, it's just that that was obviously something that was intended to innovate how these games are played. It's a relatively minor change in the greater design of the game, I suppose. It's one little mechanic, but it fundamentally changes how a lot of people approach the game and approach their characters. It's just whether or not, how much pressure do they feel? First off, it's a new IP. It's not a Souls game, like, quote, technically.
Well, it's
I mean,
not.
but I understand.
It is,
that it
though.
is, but I mean,
if you're looking,
if you're looking kind of, I suppose, from their perspective, they're specifically trying to separate it from the previous games. So, I mean, I guess that they had this idea of innovation in mind. So, I can kind of understand the emphasis on the Chalice dungeons for a lot of things, despite a lot of people not necessarily liking the Chalice dungeons. But just, we had to do something new. It's a new game. This is number 4 in the series, if you want to, put it in that continuum. And they may have missed the mark on something. But
I think the only thing they missed is a variety in weapons.
Well, I'm not even sure that was their motivation for.
Or
Well,
builds.
there's a lot that's tied into that, Knutaf, definitely. The thing is, I feel like from what I've seen and the impressions I've gotten from having worked to some extent with them, the sense that I got, and I could be wrong on this, but the sense that I walked away with is that, yes, it's a new IP, but they knew full well from the very beginning that what people were expecting was Demon's Souls 2. They knew that. And the game was kind of designed around not just innovating, but also being very familiar to people who had liked Demon's Souls. And I think that they had this really weird dichotomy of opposing goals on their hands, where on the one hand, they wanted to appeal to a wider audience. They've come out and said that publicly. That's a known fact. But on the other hand, they wanted to appeal to the fans of old school Souls games, particularly Demons, which was the last Souls IP on which Sony and FromSoft worked together. So in some ways, they were kind of screwed out of the gate. Like, how do you fulfill both of those goals at once?
That's actually kind of amusing.
So, but Knutaf, as to your point about the diversity of builds, absolutely dead on. You're totally right about that. Weapon diversity, build diversity, really, really hurt the game, the lack thereof. And hopefully that's something that they will address in the upcoming expansion. I do not know, but my personal sense on the matter, I suspect, given that to me the game feels like it shipped in a very, very incomplete state, just given the lack of optimization from the start, that stuff is stuff that you would have done well before the game hit retail if you had had the time. I really think that this supposed expansion, I would not be the least bit surprised if it turns out to be stuff that maybe was planned from the very beginning that they just didn't have the time or the resources to make happen in retail release.
Like an actual Covenant system,
Well, among
maybe?
other things, yes, or...
I would love if they would do that, but I don't see... If they do that, then they're admitting their mistake, and I don't see them doing that.
Are they
Japanese
too proud
developer.
to do that? I don't know whether that's
I
necessarily
think-
true.
As far as it... As far as it is right now, it's the Covenant system is like the most lacking thing in the world. It might as well not even exist.
Yeah.
And two of the bonus effects from the Covenant runes are trash.
As far as the
like
exactly.
the only
and
one
as
worth
far
using is
as
the Hunter's
the
one.
as far as the general public is concerned, this is how they are intended to work. Unless you really think about it and go, they might as well not even
Right.
exist. So for them to add like a whole Covenant system in the quote unquote expansion, it would be amazing. I would absolutely love it. I would probably cry tears of joy.
I'd be right there with you with my handkerchief, Peeve.
But I don't. I don't see them doing it though, because if they do it, then that's like them saying, "Oh, sorry, we didn't have it there from the start." So
I get
don't
the feeling that it was more that that's their design, like the Covenants at least. I feel like
Well-
that's what they designed. Maybe there were other elements that they didn't have time to add in, but it's more like factions Covenants this time around. I think that's
hunter
probably what they're going
of
for.
hunters, and you don't even hunt
Well, you
any
can't.
hunters.
There's a
Like,
5% chance.
There's nothing
like,
to it.
Knutaf, I think you're right that they intended them to be minimalist. I don't think they intended them to be so superficial that they have no substance. Like,
There's no purpose to him except the Vile Blood Register, which is already screwed
in an
beyond
ironic
repair.
way, though, Peeve, the Vile Blood Register does serve its intended purpose because it's basically the register of all the cheaters. It's like the Book of the Guilty.
That's a bit twisted.
It is. But like Knutaf, there's Are you very familiar with Japanese culture?
I mean, a little bit.
You know how they have this whole thing about saving face?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it boils down to, is that in Japan, if you make a mistake, and this isn't just in video game development, it's in business and corporate practice and pretty nearly any other aspect of interaction with somebody. If you make a mistake, you do not admit to it unless you are absolutely forced to and given no other choice. You cover it up, you turn the other shoulder, and pretend it didn't happen unless you are absolutely forced to acknowledge it, so that you don't create any bad feelings or any conflict. And Peeve is right. I mean, that's often, granted not always, but it's very often how Japanese developers in particular approach fixing mistakes in their games, rather than fix something and by doing so inherently admit that they messed up. They will ignore it forever, which is what happened with the durability bug in Dark Souls 2.
That's what happens. That's what they've done chronically, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Like even Dark Souls 1, balance problems not addressed for sometimes a long time.
Yeah. Ages and ages.
Yeah, but they still get addressed. This is the Covenant system isn't necessarily a balance issue, or that's why I don't think it'll get addressed, because it's a full mechanic. So I don't see them adjusting. It's actually it can be related, I guess, in that regard to soul memory, which they did admit their mistake on that with the introduction of the what the hell is
the
it?
Agate
Stupid
ring, yeah. But then
that is
the
that was
Agate
just
ring,
a
which is
Band-Aid
it doesn't.
Band-Aid on a gun.
Exactly.
Yeah, we were all going for the same
Exactly.
thing.
But it is them essentially admitting their mistake, or at least at the very least a nod towards the community's outcry. So
this is going to be odd
I don't
coming from
know.
me, but I still hold the position that soul memory is not necessarily the issue of Dark Souls 2. I mean, soul memory is problematic because it compounds a lot of the issues of Dark Souls 2. But if you had put soul memory into Dark Souls 1, it would have been fine. If you had put level restriction matching into Dark Souls 2, it probably would have been fine. So the biggest issue of Dark Souls 2 in regards to soul memory is
it's the lack of solid diminishing returns, I
the
guess.
disparity between
that's true.
character power resulting from a disparity in level is huge. So when you remove restrictions based on level, you're going to have some really wildly varying character potential or strength, I should say. Whereas Dark Souls 1...
So what? So you're saying that if there were stricter diminishing returns in Dark Souls 2, for example, and if there were a smaller, narrower disparity in strength based on level, so that if a character at soul level 100 had capabilities much closer to a character at soul level 300, soul memory would not have been as much a problem?
Let me answer that with an example or a question. If you are playing in Dark Souls 1 and you have a less level 120 like optimized PvP build, and you invade somebody in the forest or even in the township or the burg or something, and you fight them and you kill them, and it turns out they were soul level like 300.
Which I've had happen.
How often do you notice that before you kill them?
I think you notice it.
Yeah,
you notice it subtly.
Yes,
you don't. It's not like the biggest thing, though.
It's not a big deal. Like you might get a
you can
little
overcome
bit
it
of a
with
hint.
skill easily.
Yeah, but it's not as significant as, for instance, being level 100 in Dark Souls 2 and fighting somebody who's 500 with fully upgraded Hallows armor.
Your survivability is just like
on
the
the
floor.
So it is a huge difference.
You can't do anything.
So the way Dark Souls 2 is set up, you can be level 100 if you choose to restrict yourself to a specific level. You can have like 12 million soul memory, and the people that you typically fight are in that like 400, 500, 300, 600, whatever range. And yes, it's much more problematic in that way. Like soul memory is good because the purpose of the function, the purpose of the system is going to let you have a much larger potential pool of players to match with, right? It just is going to do that.
But it has the inherent problem that the disparity in power of those players makes it so that the majority of those matchups are objectively unfair. How many of you, probably all of you, on a low-level build have backstabbed a soul level 500 guy in full Havels in Dark Souls 2? The backstab, like 12 damage.
Well, see, another issue with that too is how the damage system works. Damage in Dark Souls 2 is just hilariously stupid. It is a really harsh thresholding system. So I won't get too into the specifics of it, but basically you have to overcome a threshold in order to actually start doing damage. So let's say your opponent just straight up negates like 200 attack rating, and your rapier only has like 250 attack rating. Then it's as if you're attacking with just 50 attack rating. But then you have like other weapons that, it just way more attack rating. They're much better as a result, things like that. Whereas in some of the other games, it's a little bit different how those systems work, where you can still do like reasonable damage, and armor is less significant. Like I actually think Bloodborne does a pretty damn good job about that. And I've been investing a fair bit of time trying to figure out how that whole system works, and unsurprisingly enough, it's nearly identical to Dark Souls 1. But I mean that's another discussion as well. I honestly forget what our initial talking point was. We got on a bit of a tangent.
That's great. We did, didn't we? The game's replayability is what it comes down to, what we were discussing
and specifically
before. And
in relation to kind of a matching system that's not exactly ideal with the Bell Maidens and things like that. So it's
far from ideal with the Bell Maidens, I would say, in that, like, literally, it prevents so much PvP that you might as well not do PvP even at optimal levels for PvP. Like the only places you can get it are the Nightmare Frontier, which is where people have to go to get it on purpose, or the Nightmare of Mensis, where most people are just trying to get through the area, and you'll invade someone, they'll immediately kill their Bell Maiden, or they'll just die and you won't even get to fight them. Like,
yeah,
and people do try and arrange PvP in Mensis as well, but that's what I think they really drove the PvP community to in Bloodborne. In the previous games, PvP was non-consensual, so you could enjoy it more off the cuff and in a more candid way. Whereas in Bloodborne, it's clear to me that a very intentional element of the game's design is to severely restrict non-consensual PvP and really drive people to arranging it, and then that's the only way you can get it reliably.
It wouldn't be so bad if they couldn't kill the Bell Maiden, because it essentially works, and I've explained this before, it essentially works the same way Dark Souls 1 does, because Dark Souls 1, in order to be invaded, you have to be human.
That's
you can
true.
go through the whole game without being invaded, if you want to. But you go human, which is think of the Bell Maidens as humanity. You go human, it activates multiplayer. So whenever you activate multiplayer in Bloodborne, it activates a Bell Maiden. It's essentially the same thing. The only difference here is you had things like kindling bonfires, which some people would do. You have to be human to do that. You would also have it to where whenever someone would summon somebody in, you can't just, if you want to summon someone for the boss, you have to do it from the last bonfire that you're at. You have to. That's like the earliest point you can do it. You have to be human to get to. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to get to like the boss and summon people with the boss fog, say you want to pick up a sign in the boss fog, you have to reverse hollow at
right,
the
and then
bonfire.
walk to the boss
That's
fog.
what I meant to say. And walk to the boss fog. While in Bloodborne, not only can you summon somebody right by the Bell Maiden spawn, watch the Bell Maiden spawn, I've done that before, and then kill her instantly. I swear, I've done it before where I initiated either the Sinister Bell or someone, I forgot which it was, probably Sinister Bell. And I initiated it. I counted 3 seconds. I started up a charge attack, and by the time it released, the Bell Maiden spawned, and I hit her with it, and I into a backstab and killed her. That's how predictable it is. So you can do that and summon somebody and not have to worry about PvP at all, or you can just go to the boss fog and summon somebody from the boss fog.
Do you think that's what people do though?
Like that.
Do you think that's like people
yeah.
are avoiding?
I'm sure a
PvP,
lot of people
like using that.
Oh, they a lot. You
Yeah,
see it
people-
in streams of Bloodborne.
Oh, really?
Knutaf. Like,
Yeah.
if you watch other
Yeah.
people doing PVE runs on streams, they'll more often than not they'll go straight to the boss. Sometimes they'll go to the
and then
sometimes they'll go to the boss offline. And that
Oh
was
my
in
god!
previous.
Are people really going to those lengths to avoid PvP?
I didn't
My
even
God.
In
consider
previous
that.
Souls games, you could be human and then walk to the boss offline, and then turn. And people did that, you know.
That's, okay, I didn't
but
know
that's-
people went to that much
But you
trouble.
had to at least like unplug your Ethernet cable, plug it back in. A lot of people didn't
Or
go
just
through the
quit
trouble
out
with
of-
that. I've actually never even
or
considered
log out
that.
of PSN because that way you were.
Well, on PSN.
Yeah.
You could, well, I guess you could do it too on Xbox. But yeah, that is true. But in Bloodborne, it's like you don't even have to worry about that. It's not a problem, except for the nightmare areas, in which case, find out where the Bell Maiden is, and you don't have to worry
Well, but
about it.
that's just the
ever again.
thing. Like even in the nightmare areas, you just play offline, and the Bell Maiden can't.
Kill the Bell Maiden
Exactly.
offline, and then
So, like, the reason they designed it that way, I suspect, is because they were hearing a lot of feedback that, oh no, I don't like invasions,
Yeah.
I hate it. A lot of people whining about it.
I think so.
And yeah, I mean, and so they said, oh well, I guess we better make it so invasions are harder to do and people don't get invaded as much because clearly this is what all our fans want.
Well,
on my hacker
Yeah.
videos, like fully half the comments are like, "Oh, you had it coming to you. You were invading him." Like, seriously?
Oh yeah, I've seen comments like that. Like especially whenever you're using someone which there's always someone deemed cheap. I've seen
Oh, God.
on one of Brandon's videos where he knocks a Dark Souls 2. It's the funniest thing in the world, by the way. It's called My
Oh,
Pit
I've
Hacker.
seen this. Yeah,
He knocks
this is
it.
great.
he keeps pairing someone with infinite health, and instead of riposting him, he goes to the side and he keeps hitting him to like push him further. And he eventually knocks him into a pit
In the forest, in the fort.
in the forest. Yeah, he knocks him into a pit, which you're supposed to die, but infinite health
Yeah.
and no percentage based death mechanic, fall mechanic. He lives and he's trapped down there. And so some point is someone in the comments is like, you deserve to die by the hacker. You're using a katana and dark magic. You're just as bad as
I
cheap.
mean, stupid
It's
people
like,
are going to be hard
what?
to avoid. Anyway.
What?
There are. I mean, I've got to hand it to Vadi in that particular video, Peeve. Vadi posted one of the best comments I think I'd ever seen on that video.
I don't know.
His
if I've
comment
seen
was
it.
something to the effect like, "It's like watching a cockroach run around in a terrarium."
There really is. There's one point where he goes, and I crack up every time I see it. There's one point where he's looking around. He like goes to change position. He's looking around. He's like, wait, did he get out? Where is he? Did he get out? And then he goes and nope, there he is. And he's like in a corner. So it's like, yeah, so it's like a cockroach, or I like to think of it more like I don't know, like a gerbil, like hiding in his cage. He's like, where is he? I don't see.
Buried
there
under
he
the
is
wood chips in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hackers are gerbils.
underneath the
Like
wood
the
chip.
best part is you just know that the guy who was hacking was fuming in real life, like throwing his
Oh yeah, he was
that someone had
pissed.
gotten the better of him even though he was hacking, and he was just like tearing his hair out. Like that was the most satisfying part of that whole video.
And then he's like dropping like prison stones to him as if he's like feeding them.
Oh, that was the best.
I was there for that live. I was like, "Can we keep him?" He's like, "Sure, Peeve, we can keep
It's
him."
kind of
Oh,
it's kind of funny though. I mean, getting back to kind of what we were talking about before.
Yeah, well, sidetracks is fun though.
no, but I was going to say that it's kind of funny though that looking at some of these other systems of the other games, it's really illuminating in terms of how how well Demon Souls did this whole risk reward or incentive for being eligible for invasion or not, right?
Oh,
Well,
with soul form
not
and
only
body
that,
form, you mean?
So actually consider this. So when you died in Demon Souls, you just by default had 50% of your maximum HP. It could be 75% of your maximum HP, but it removes a ring slot in order to do so.
And you only had
Correct.
2 ring slots in that game.
Now, there is a bit of a benefit for being in soul form. You do more damage, 20% more damage, so that's a little bit helpful.
But also take
yeah.
more.
Wait. You mean with like
No,
the
by
no,
default.
ring, right?
When
in
you are in soul
soul
form, by
form, like-
default, you just do more damage.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Is that
It's
a
a
world
Nope.
tendency thing?
It is because
no,
you are in
it's
soul
not
form,
world
you just do more
tendency or
damage.
character.
Somehow
What
I never
happens-
even knew that.
Oh my god.
No, it's I
had no idea.
It's hard to notice. It's a 10% ish difference.
I thought it was about 20.
But try it.
But
like
maybe I'm wrong. I thought
20?
it was significant.
No,
yeah, I
it's-
thought it was
it's-
significant.
it's significant, but it's like 10 or 15 at most. But it's significant in that if you test it, if you hit a Dregling in 1/1 in soul form and then come back, or just use an ephemeral eye stone and hit that same Dregling in body form, you will notice the
difference in
difference
damage,
right
yeah.
away.
But
Yeah, the idea is body form, you take less damage, you have slightly higher defense. Soul form, you have slightly higher attack, but your defense is penalized. They swap.
so there's that system.
Huh.
So, you have this incentive to have more health. You have to be alive rather. But also, after you kill a boss, the game forces you human again. Now consider what happens after you beat a boss. Maybe you go back to the Nexus, you do whatever you got to do, and then you go to the next area. Now you are guaranteed to be inhuman unless you kill yourself in the Nexus, but that's something people kind of started to do afterwards when you are started to understand the game a little bit better. But now you're in a new area, you're alive. If you're just getting into a new area, you're probably going to go about things kind of slowly, be cautious in certain areas, and that's going to give time for people to connect to you. Like the whole system works really, really well in terms of promoting an active community, in terms of matchmaking and multiplayer and things like that. And I don't. It's kind of funny, like how much of that is just kind of, accidental genius, right? Like,
right.
And it's the way something I didn't think about till just now. You could essentially do what people do in Bloodborne, where you just summon right at the boss fog by going to the boss fog
Soul
in
form.
And using
soul
an ephemeral
form
eye.
and
Using
using
an
souls.
ephemeral eye
But
stone.
it requires that you
Yeah.
use an
And
ephemeral
ephemeral
eye, which
eyes,
is not
but-
exactly
Not only that, but you're having to go through the entire first part of the stage
Half
with
health.
a
Yes.
big chunk of your HP
Yep.
missing.
Yeah.
So there's
yeah.
there's some compensation either
but
way.
it's actually a meaningful decision
Yeah.
of, well, shit, do I want to be in soul form
Yeah.
and avoid potential for invasion, or do I want?
I remember making those decisions.
Yeah.
in my
Yeah,
first
well, and
playthrough.
the other part of it, a lot of people complain about world tendency in Demon Souls, and I totally get why. In a lot of ways,
Oh, it's confusing as hell.
confusing,
That's
it's
why I
obtuse,
could-
it's hard to understand.
It ruined my first playthrough. It spoiled me on everything because I had to look it up.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what the hell was going on. I looked it up on the wiki, and like I did that thing where it's like you don't want any spoilers, so it's like I'm gonna scroll down and I'm gonna cut off like the
Yup,
next sentence
yup.
just so I don't get spoiled. And then like it's like you like lower like a drop menu or something on the wiki, and it's like so after you beat the final boss, which is so
Yeah, no, it's truly.
or no, it's worded in a way where it's like after you beat this boss, who's the final boss, by the way. And it's just like,
Amazing.
Oh, absolutely. But like, completely, perfectly reasonable, legitimate complaints about world tendency, right? But one of the things that world tendency is good for is it adds some consequence to being in body form, because if you're in body form and you want to, for example, you don't want the consequence of playing through a stage offline in soul form. Oh, you don't want to deal with that? Well, guess what? You do it in body form and you die? Fuck you. Your world tendency goes down.
Yeah, which for anyone who's never played Demon Souls, if your world tendency gets darker from dying in body form, you the entire area gets The
They do more damage, right?
Does it
Yeah,
get tougher
Enemies do more
right away?
damage. You
Yeah,
get more souls from them.
The changes don't take
Yeah.
effect until you leave the area and come back.
Oh yeah,
You have to
that's
respawn
right.
the area,
Yeah.
but
So the best part
basically
is
what happens is as world tendency lowers, your
Or turns black,
it
as
goes
it were.
towards black.
Because that's the game turn.
But as it goes towards black, your maximum HP in soul form lowers. So if you had perfect tendency, actually no, sorry, if you had neutral tendency and you had the cling ring, you had 75% of your maximum HP. If you were in pure black, maybe that 75, I forget the exact numbers, but maybe that 75 is now 65.
no,
It's
thinking
No,
about
it's
power
both.
tendency.
It's both. It goes
Yeah.
down.
What? Really?
World tendency penalizes your
Oh,
health
God.
while you're in that area. Character tendency penalizes your health no matter where you are.
Yep.
If it's dark.
I see. Now, the best part is you're in World 4,
Oh,
Shrine of
God, yep.
Storms. You're in
Fucking
4-1,
Black Phantom sucks.
and you're dying a lot. And you have to get through the area, so you're just like, screw it. I'm using I only have a few ephemeralized stones. I'm using all of them just to get through this area because these rolling skeletons are so infuriating. And so you use them all up, you keep dying, and then you're like, oh crap, I'm gonna go back and buy some more grass. So you leave and you come back and you're like, what is that guy charging me with this katana? And it's Black Phantom Satsuki, and he just murders you. It is the most aggressive,
And he
ridiculous.
spams grass.
awful.
And he sees you from forever away.
yeah.
Like, you don't even get to breathe when you get in there.
He charges you unless you have the thief ring
Yeah.
on. He will charge you the
By
moment
the time
you
you're
spawn
even
in
coming out of the
and
Archstone
whip your
animation, he's
ass.
just already halfway to you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's already on you. And if you go too far ahead, you will also have a skeleton rolling at you. So you have to fight him in the first like 5 feet of the area, and he's healing and whipping your
And
ass,
one-shotting you.
and it's just.
Because you're also in pure black.
I wonder how many people Black Phantom Satsuki has caused the rage quit Demon Souls.
Quite, well,
Probably a
don't
good
you
bit.
remember reading the forums like ages and ages ago on GameFAQs when Demon Souls was new and people were raging about him?
Really? I mean, because once you think about it, you're
See-
screwed. Whenever he's there, if you have to get past 4-1 and he's there, unless you like do something where you like
That
log
doesn't
out
work.
and try to reset the world tendency if you know
Or
to do
co-op
that.
in a whole bunch of other
Well,
areas.
yeah,
talking about the
Wow.
other
yeah.
The thing is, but the thing is, you whenever you spawn in, you don't have time to find a summon sign and,
Yeah.
and
Oh, no,
grab it
that's
true,
without
that's
him
true.
charging.
No, you have to play
You
elsewhere.
can't
I
change
mean, like,
the world
play-
tendency. You
Oh,
can't
I guess
do
you're
it.
in 4-1. You have to get that world's.
You have to be,
you're in trouble.
yeah. You can't. Yeah, if you haven't passed 4-1 yet, you're like screwed.
Grind up levels
Wow,
elsewhere.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I love that.
God, it's
And while we're on the subject, I realized just now, a lot of my replayability in Demon Souls for my first few playthroughs, the thing that made me keep going through was Colorless Demon Souls, which because you had to turn each world pure black and kill the primeval demon, and you get a colorless soul. So I would go through the game collecting colorless souls to upgrade my weapons multiple times. I loved doing it, but I didn't find another reason to go through like Dark Souls 1. I stayed in Dark Souls 1 first playthrough for 300
well, and then
hours,
later on we figured out that with the Stockpile Thomas glitch, going to New Game Plus for Colorless Demon Souls was irrelevant anyway.
Actually, I enjoyed it so much that I have never duped Colorless Demon Souls in Demon Souls. I enjoyed going through and hunting down all the things and doing the assassination contracts.
Well, I did too. Like
so much that I didn't dupe them. It was my replayability.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about, though. Like, in New Game Plus, there was stuff for you to do that you could easily, and almost in all likelihood, would have missed your first time through the game. Especially the world tendency events, particularly the white ones, but the black ones too. Like, if you got a world to pure black world tendency, you would encounter two things that were completely new. You would encounter the named Black Phantom of that world, and you would encounter the Primeval Demon. And if you killed them both in the same visit, and then left the area without dying in body form, then that world was then almost in pure white, and by defeating one more boss there, it was in pure white. And oh hey, look, Selin Vinland is now hanging out on the way to the Dirty Colossus boss.
Yeah, it had a lot of like hidden subtle content that you could find by doing
Bloodborne has got
playthroughs.
a shitload of hidden content as well. I mean, or I shouldn't say hidden. Well, it is kind of hidden, but there's a ton of optional content. Now, assume that you know you're new to the series. This is your first game, because again, for us, our perspective is that we've played 3 other games in their entirety.
This isn't Dark Souls 1 at all.
Yeah, like but I mean, let's say you're new to the series and this is your first take at a Souls game. Are you really going to find all of the shit that is hidden and optional in this game? Like, there is a ton of stuff that you could potentially be missing, and then turns out,
heck, I missed umbilical cords my first playthrough, and I was probably looking for all this.
I
stuff.
had the third umbilical cord, but I didn't pop it.
You're very thorough too, Knutaf, and this is the kind of stuff that you're missing. So let's consider it from somebody who's new, like their perspective. You get through the game, you do your playthrough, and then you're talking to somebody, you read online, and it's like this whole other thing. It's like, holy shit, I didn't even see any of that. Let's go fucking play it again and experience that. And there's some incentive that way. But for us, obviously, maybe it's not as appealing because we probably found the majority of that in our first playthrough, which is not necessarily the case for somebody who's new. I'm also going to interrupt and clarify something that I had said earlier, because I decided to look it up just out of curiosity. Soul form damage increase is based on world tendency. So if it is white, if it is white world tendency and you are in soul form, you deal 10% damage. 10% more damage, I should say. If it is pure white, it is 20% more damage, which is why I was saying 20%, because I typically ended up.
So we were both kind of right.
Kind of right, yeah. And then if it's black world tendency, then you lose the damage bonus, and your maximum HP actually goes lower, which is like pretty awesome. But, anyways, that's kind of separate. Now we kind of have been. For the most part, just shitting on Bloodborne again, and it's
I like Bloodborne,
but a lot of it is just it's kind of frustration on some very silly mechanic decisions or system decisions in Bloodborne. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that got changed in the new patch that really addressed some of the issues that we had before. Like, thank God there is a viable way to get chunks and blood rocks again, and you can actually.
Is it only the 30 inside at the inside shop? Is that the only way to get chunks now?
No,
that's
not
still
ridiculous.
Actually, if you don't have the patch notes, I'll post it in Mumble
we
here.
should.
But
basically, I agree with you to a certain extent on that, Frosty. But I think also, first of all, I wouldn't say we've been shitting on Bloodborne because that implies baseless statements with no validity. And I think every criticism we've raised so far has been reasonably valid. The thing is, the patch, reading through it, there's not a single thing in there that I don't think is a good change other than debatably the level matchmaking range, but that there are pros and cons to that.
Well, that's crazy.
But my thoughts on some of those changes is that they really are indicative of deeper and broader overarching problems with some of the game's systems rather than, I mean, yes, they're good. It's good that you can now get blood rocks from a couple more places, but like, let me put it this way. The fact that it's now, after the patch, the most efficient way to get blood rocks is to save scum on the 3rd floor boss of a 4-floor depth 5 east dungeon. That is not what the developers intended, but yet that's what they gave us. This is, I probably...
but I mean, it wasn't... There's no reasonable expectation that people are going to be doing that kind of thing. There really isn't.
You say that, but that because it's the easiest thing now to do, people are going to be doing it. That's the thing. Like, what do you think?
See, but
people...
the problem with that argument is like just calling it the easiest thing to do and being something that obnoxious and out of the game's like out of the reasonable way you would expect people to be playing the game. I mean, you could make the argument then, well, in Dark Souls 1, it's easier to cheat engine a lot of things, and
No, completely. I get what you're saying, but here's my thing. Like, I understand, but I feel like we're comparing apples and oranges, or at least a different species of apple. Like, I think the deal with blood rocks is, do you really think that if people have the option of attempting to get a blood rock once every 3 or 4 minutes, that they're going to pass that up and instead grind their way through the entire dungeon over and over again to get to that floor 3 boss?
Well, see, my thing is blood rocks are a little bit of an anomaly because, one, the number of weapons that you'll actually be using blood rocks on is rather low.
Depends,
two,
especially if it's not a build. I think if it's not a build that's going to level question mark, and it's a set build, a lot of people are going to just have like their main weapons, so they're only going to need like 3 blood rocks, 2 weapons, and a gun.
You get a guaranteed blood rock from
that's still
but
quite
here's
a
the thing.
few.
So you get a guaranteed blood rock from the actual story. You've also got 3 potential blood rocks you can get as guaranteed chest drops, or not chest drops, but chest treasures from the different Chalice areas. So that's 4 already. And then
if you're lucky enough to get one of those dungeons with the early glyph.
Yeah, but I mean, if you really want, you can go and actually find the specific glyph codes that people have been sharing and
but you can't get in.
Get
that's the thing. Like, you can't get into dungeons with those glyphs unless you've created a dungeon that matches those criteria, unless you use the short ritual root chalice.
Oh, sure.
And the short ritual root chalice is a complete crapshoot.
I mean, but that is an argument against how restrictive it is to get into those higher or better dungeons, the system there, rather than an issue with blood rocks or anything like that. So, but either way, so you've got this guaranteed blood rock through the story if you choose to actually get it. You've got 3 potential guaranteed blood rocks from the different Chalice dungeons. And then you have also this random potential of getting Chalice or blood rocks off of the bosses. So let's say you get like 5 or 6 blood rocks just running all the Chalice dungeons. 5 or 6 blood rocks, 5 or 6 plus 10 weapons is pretty much all most builds are going to need.
That's fair, but so basically the core principle is that they're really, really counting on Chalice dungeons as a core part of the game, whereas I think a lot of people think of them as potential side stuff because they're so grindy.
There's a very obvious focus on the Chalice dungeons in terms of the game design and a lot of the decisions that have been made, and
that's so puzzling and so unfortunate to me because it goes against like what makes the series great.
That's always going to be a subjective thing, though. I mean, you talk to somebody like Sen. Sen fucking loves the Chalice dungeons, and it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to join for the podcast. He's actually running a tournament right now, but he actually really likes the Chalice dungeons, and I know a lot of people really like the Chalice dungeons. like I said kind of earlier, I mean, maybe that's a symptom of developers FromSoft trying to innovate for this game and be different, so they decided to add this function. And this is what's new. It's awesome, great. We're gonna put a lot of our effort into it.
I wonder, though, what people think of the Chalice dungeons in another 4 months when they've spent that much time in them and realized how repetitive they are.
I suppose.
Yeah, but they do have the well, Frosty, I'm gonna just ask you this: have you gone through the entirety of the Chalice dungeons
on 4 characters? I've killed the Sumerian Queen on 4 characters.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. I wasn't sure.
I have
how far you went.
If people want to get it back or an idea of what my
point, I was gonna say real quick. The point I'm making is that they do add to the game, but then after that, it's just like it's the grind to get there to get that content, and then after that, it's just like.
So here's my problem with them specifically. It's that the reason I feel they're antithetical to so many other parts of the game is that the levels don't feel like they were created by humans. Like, even though the set of like main ones that aren't the ritual ones or the root ones are they're fixed, right, for everybody, they still feel like they're computer generated. There's no I don't feel an artist's hand in the construction of them. Yeah, they probably just took a random seed, and like, all right, this fulfills all the criteria. Let's use this one for the one. Whereas all the like main parts of the game, they have landmarks, they have memorable routes, they have like precise enemy placements, carefully planned encounters, etc. There's absolutely none of that. It's oh yeah, I remember being in this room. Okay, this is the room with the dead end. This is the room where we gotta drop off. Like, the characteristics of them are so. They have no personality, unlike all the parts of like every other Souls game.
The reuse of certain set pieces too, Knutaf, really bothered me. Like, you know how in Lauren, there's that set piece where you walk out onto a bunch of rope bridges spanning a huge canyon.
That's my favorite room in the game, by the way. Like oddly enough, I love that room.
When I first saw that, I flipped out. It was amazing. But then when I encountered that exact same set piece in an East dungeon, just recolored with all the cosmic filters, my heart sank.
Just sad.
You know?
Yeah.
Wait, so Knutaf, you've been through the entirety of it?
No. So I've been through. Through Meru up to Defiled. I've been through Hintertomb, and I'm at Lower Lauren.
I see.
That's where I
was wanting to avoid any potential spoilers, but yeah, because I figured you were still going through it.
Yeah, I've been doing those off stream. I can't see how they're interesting stream content.
No, I would say just go through it. It's worth it to go through it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I do think there's a lot of ways that they could alleviate some of the tediousness.
Here's an idea. Like, they need more memorable encounters, basically. So there's the room in Lauren Chalice with the Beast Claw guy. There's that NPC in there with a room full of hard-boiled rats.
Izzy's admirer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's actually a dude. All right, I had no idea he had a name.
Well, it's FromSoft's official name for him. That's what we were given for the guide. But he has no story significance.
Okay. All right. No story significance or not. That was an interesting set piece. I don't feel like there are very many interesting set pieces in up to that point. Maybe that was the first.
I mean, some of the higher end areas, there's a lot of those kind of NPCs, and I suppose that kind of diminishes.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Some of the value of some of the earlier ones, just because they do become relatively common in the like depth 5 dungeons, or some of the random depth 5 dungeons. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the tedium is that people are playing through the entirety of the regular game and then trying to do the Chalice dungeons. And the first, 3 depths are just horribly
it's boring.
easy and boring for people. It becomes tedious to go through it because the game is no longer fun because you're just one-shotting everything, and it's kind of absurd. So
I went.
Well, no. I was just going to say, if you're going to do another playthrough, try try just doing Chalice dungeons as you're leveling your character. Like kill the
That's an interesting
Bloodstar
thought.
beast. And then do a couple Chalice dungeons.
First
right?
things first.
And then when the Chalice dungeons
thing-
become difficult, go back to the story. And then when the story gets a little bit difficult, go back to the Chalice dungeons. Right?
Yeah, that's a good.
That's what I did in my first playthrough. But I kind of trailed off of the Chalice dungeons after a while. Like, I
really
don't know
feel
why
like
I
that's-
stopped, actually. I think it was because I was, you know what? I bet it was Undead Giant that turned me off. I was like,
yeah.
all right, I'm not
Yep.
gonna like. I took so many deaths, like 53 deaths on Undead Giant. I think is what we counted.
Wait, the one with
Yeah.
the chains.
Yeah, 'cause-
No, man, the very first one, the one
The
who's
very
got the
first
birthday
one.
cake on his back.
The
Oh.
first one doesn't have the chains, but it's the big
The one
enemy
with the
that-
fish
yeah.
hook.
We came up with a whole backstory for
or
him.
the twin scythes or whatever
Yeah.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
The one
Yeah.
who's like built to counter every
The
single
first- the
strategy you've
first-
used so far.
The first boss in all Chalice dungeons.
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
The thing with the Chalice dungeons, though, and I did do that my first playthrough. I did all the Chalice dungeons off camera, though, because even at that point, I felt that they weren't substantial enough to make any kind of good footage. But what I found was that I hit a wall in the Chalice dungeons very, very abruptly. Like, you get the first Chalice from the Bloodstarved Beast if you're going through the game in that order, which most people will.
Right.
If they even find Old Yarnum at all, because they may instead just beat the Cleric Beast and get the Hunter Chief Emblem, and then walk all the way through the Cathedral Ward without ever finding Old Yarnum.
That's true. But
But
I bought it and I went to Old Yarnum first because I didn't know what I was
well,
doing.
that's understandable too. Nobody did pretty much, but like
Yeah.
I found that even at very low levels, the entire first dungeon and the dungeons connected to it that you get the chalices from in that first dungeon, pushovers. Absolute pushovers, even with like a +4 weapon. The next dungeon, the one that you get from, I think it's it's Amygdala, the Lauren one. Vast jump in difficulty.
yeah, because that's a depth 4 dungeon.
Yes, but you can get to Amygdala so soon after clearing Old Yarnum. Like, I feel like the Chalice dungeon progression is not really designed to completely coincide with the main game.
Well, the problem is in order to place the Ailing Lauren Chalice, you're gonna have to go through pretty much all the previous Chalice dungeons to get the materials.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can't just make that difficulty jump. You gotta.
That's actually unfortunate
You gotta
too.
go through
Well,
it.
see, that's kind of something that I can see potential problems with it, but I actually think it still might be a good idea.
It depends to what extent you force the player to do it, because I know exactly what Peeve and Knutaf are talking about. It's that in order to get to Lower Lauren, you have to go through Ailing Lauren and get a bunch of Bastards of Lauren, which that's the only place you can get them. So what they're doing is saying, if you want to get to the really good Chalice dungeons where the rewards are actually even remotely worthwhile, you have to slog your way through a whole slew of trash ones that are just a waste of your time first. That is my complaint. I understand that, yes, from a certain point of view, it makes sense that you should have to find materials for later Chalice dungeons in earlier ones, but there should not have been such a slog involved in getting them, because instead, like, we were talking about this before, where some people view the Chalice dungeons as optional content, and I really think that's what they were originally intended to be, but somebody along the way said, no, we need to pad out the main game because it's so short. We need to do something to really encourage people and push them to go do the Chalice dungeons. And so what we ended up with is what really, to me, smacks of a very, very late and very careless change to make the Chalice dungeons, if not effectively mandatory, then de facto mandatory, where, okay, you don't have to do them to beat the main game, but if you want any of this really cool stuff that it's kind of necessary for character progression and a complete build, fuck you, go do Chalice dungeons and do lots of them.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be part of the main game's world. I thought we were gonna go through, get to like, the forest or the woods or something. Actually, I imagine it would be somewhere unlocked in the
Cathedral Ward?
Yeah, somewhere in the
Because
Cathedral Ward where you
they
go.
say the dungeons are under Yarnum. They give you every reason to believe that they were supposed to be part of the main game.
Yeah, so you think I thought that at some point, even whenever I first saw them, like I was like, oh my god, that's the new Blight Town. I thought there was going to be a point where you go down somewhere and you're still in like natural progression, like coming from say the Cathedral Ward into this little down, so kind of like how you get the old Yharnam, something like that, and you're just boom, instantly you're in your procedurally generated dungeon for your game world. Yeah. And I thought that's how it was gonna be. And there's gonna be one for each person, so everyone's gonna have their own one unique dungeon that everyone wants to try out, and then like you would, if you want to try others, you would join up with friends or get seeds or something like that. I didn't think it was gonna be like entirely separated, like so much so that here's the main game on the right side and on the left side here's all the Chalice dungeons, and it's like entirely separate content. Like it might as well be like a mini game.
I've heard people compare the Chalice dungeons to Diablo, and it's true in a lot of ways. Like it feels like it's a game within a game and not really a very complete game within a game,
Well, you guys didn't like Diablo?
Right.
Well, it's not that I didn't like Diablo.
I never played Diablo.
I
never played Diablo.
Diablo, Frosty, Diablo is fine when it's in a Diablo game. I don't want Diablo in my Souls game.
Well, how about if you want Souls in your Diablo game?
Well, if the next Diablo game comes out and you can play as Solaire, we'll talk about that when it happens. If Solaire shows up in the next Diablo game, that's not going to be enough to get me to want to play it.
I don't know. I play so much fucking Path of Exile that maybe that's why the Chalice dungeons or something I don't mind.
Well, this is an interesting point, Frosty, because what biases do each of us have approaching the Chalice dungeons?
Oh, of course. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I mean, everybody's going to have a differing opinion on these kind of things. We can only express our own, but like I said, I know people that really like the Chalice dungeons, like really fucking like the Chalice dungeons.
I really don't. I don't mind them. They are. It is fun to like. There is that little bit of exploration, but I do find myself sometimes whenever I feel like some of them, especially the later ones, they drag on too much. I feel like if they would have chopped out like the central areas, like get rid of the central one, so there's less to have to go through. I feel like there's one too many Chalice categories. Like instead of depth 5, make depth 4 the lowest or whatever. And then whenever you're in there, it's like there's one too many depths. That's what I feel like. There's one too many depths. If they would have stopped at depth 4, I think it'd have been all right, because in the later ones I find myself running through and then I'm like, all right, let's go, and then I look to the side and I see the side door and I'm like, God damn it. Like I don't want to do this
and
side area.
And sometimes the side area loops back into the main area anyway. Like one of the things that really bothered me, like the Chalice, the first time I did the Chalice dungeons, they were novel. I'd never touched them before. Okay, fine, they were interesting. There were some set pieces in there that I really liked, like the one with the rope bridges we were just talking about. The East dungeons in particular, visually stunning. The filters are a little bit heavy there, but I mean,
wait, you're saying East?
East, yeah, ISZ.
Not East, like
Zed,
E.
you silly
I'm
Canadian.
gonna go ahead and drop some lore on you here, Spy. Me dropping lore on you.
All right, hit me. Let's see what you got, Peeve.
Okay. Whenever you go to fight Mikolash, he's saying, grant us eyes, and then he talks. If you let him finish his dialogue, once you're about to go and drop down and fight him, like actually fight him, he says, the grand lake of mud, hidden now from sight, the cosmos, of course. He's talking about Abreatus and the cosmos, daughter of the cosmos and all that. And what happens when you go fight Abreatus and kill her? You get the Chalice of Eyes, not...
Let me drop some...
Grant us eyes.
Let me drop some Let me drop some translation on you, Peeve.
I don't want it.
Yeah, you don't want it. Your efforts are admirable, and your thought process is logical. However, in the Japanese versions of the game, Is is spelled with the 2 katakana letters E and Zu. If it were pronounced eyes, it would be spelled with the 3 katakana letters A, E, and Zu. So it is indeed pronounced Is.
I'm gonna pretend I just didn't hear any of that.
No,
Can you believe I was actually, whenever I realized that, whenever I had that realization, I went into the eyes chalice. I'm still gonna call it.
you
eyes.
can. I'm not going to try to stop you.
I went
You're just
into
wrong,
the I went
so.
into the eyes chalice dungeon, and I was looking around at everything, and I was like, "There's got to be something here." Like Mikolash's secret.
where are you?
Oh,
Grant us eyes. I'm
Pete.
here. I'm in the eyes
Boy,
dungeon, but it's all
and I thought
it's all just
and
copy pasted areas.
And I thought I had the reputation in the Souls community for being the worst overthinker.
Hey, it's not Grant us eyes. The lake of mud. You fight her in a lake of mud.
It's perfectly logical.
Cosmos.
You arrived at that conclusion for completely legitimate and good reasons. I do not dispute your thought process on that. And I feel guilty even telling you this because now I feel bad. Like
he even talks about Rom, and Rom is in the room with the Breedis, or a form of Rom, or whatever the hell it is.
what he's referring to is the choir's research into the cosmos, where Abriatus comes from.
Then she drops the eyes chalice.
She
which
drops.
She wanted.
She drops the east. She drops the East Chalice because the East Chalice connects to the cosmos, which is where the choir was studying. That's why she has the East Chalice. If you look at the description of the East Chalice, it says it allowed the choir to have an audience with Abriatus. So they dragged Abriatus out of the cosmos using the East Chalice. But nevertheless, your thought process was good, Peeve. You know. So what can I say? But you can't argue with the katakana pronunciations. I mean, you can, but
You'd be wrong.
well. So, I didn't mean to completely derail us there. Again, I'm sorry. No, like I lost my drive in the Chalice dungeons when I reached the point where I had already seen all 28 sexes for the 12th or 13th time. You know, that was when and I got to that giant room. You guys know the one where there are a bunch of undead giants with cannons scattered around. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm done with this for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, screw those guys, by the way.
Just a little bit. So, now, to be fair, and Frosty, I know probably this for you as well, because I thought I was going to end up playing the advocate of Bloodborne more than anything else, but it's turned out to be you, Frosty. I think it's only fair for all of us to defer our final judgment until the patch, or rather the expansion, comes out.
You calling it a patch?
Well,
already?
but see, this is a good question, Knutaf. Did you catch the second episode of Marcus's podcast?
No, I haven't.
I caught the
listened to them
first.
yet.
I didn't catch the second though.
He just uploaded the second today, I think, or yesterday for me, but for you guys, it may still be today. But he talked about how the terminology that was used in Shuhei Yoshida's official announcement was expansion rather than DLC or patch, and Marcus seemed to be of the opinion that, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it specifically. I talked to him a couple of days ago, but we didn't get to catch up on this. He said that in his podcast that he felt that because the term expansion specifically was used in the official announcement, that it implied that it was going to be a large amount of content. I am a little bit more, you might say cynical, you might say doubtful, but I look at that and think, well, Shuhei Yoshida made that announcement on a Japanese language stream on Nico Nico Doga, and the announcement that was released in English was translated from the original Japanese, and whoever was doing the translating might have just chosen the word expand. We're getting into semantics here, but it could, it could make a difference. I kind of think Marcus might be jumping a little bit on the terminology.
I don't think he is.
But he knows Japanese, right? He must have heard the original Japanese.
He didn't
right?
mention anything in the podcast about having listened to the original stream on Nico Nico. Like, if he had, then I wouldn't even be thinking this. But I tried to go back and find the stream, but I can't find it anymore. I don't know what happened to it. Because I wanted to find out for myself, what words did Yoshida use when he made the announcement?
Right.
If I can, or I'm sure if we're going to upload this to YouTube, someone will post in the comments and tell me.
Yeah.
but it's going to depend. Like, if it turns out that he used a word that very clearly in Japanese implies lots of content, then Marcus is right, you know? But if it turns out that whoever was doing the translating of the English announcement was just kind of winging it, and that the one that Marcus read was the English one rather than the Japanese one, you know?
Not to cut you off here, but I can side with Marcus here because I follow someone else on Twitter involved with Bloodborne. I'm not gonna call out who it is, but
I think I know. Yep.
But the thing is, Yoshida said, he said there will be DLC for Bloodborne. An expansion is coming, more info later this year. And then someone else involved with Bloodborne's production tweeted out, and this is word for word, I've also been asked many times if there will be DLC for Bloodborne. Answer is yes, an expansion is coming, more info later this year. And I was like, you just said the exact words that Yoshida said. Like, you're saying the word for word, except he used like caps for is, and it's like he wanted to make his own tweet about it. But the thing is, he's using the exact same words as Yoshida. So in my mind, they were told, you can talk about it, but you have to say this exact, for an expansion is coming, more info later this year. That's all you're allowed to say. I have a feeling that's what it was. It wasn't some kind of mistranslation. I feel like that's like, or something in translation. I feel like that's what they were told, strictly what they can say, because he just said the exact same thing as Yoshida with like capitalizing like is.
I don't doubt that. I just think that, I mean, we're getting into really tricky hair splitting territory here with,
a lot of this is, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of this is semantics. And I just want to bring up 2 points, just for kind of consideration. Think about how soon after the game has been released that they're announcing DLC or extra content.
We talked about this.
How realistically, how much content do you think they would really add in such a short time frame? Now, there's two things to think about. Maybe they were really rushed for finalizing Bloodborne and getting it out and actually getting gold or going gold or whatever, and they just have a ton of unfinished content that they just didn't have the opportunity to finish in time. So maybe they're just going to spend a little bit of time, finish off all this content and add it. Or maybe they're not going to have very much time after the game's release, and there's just not going to be a lot of stuff coming out. Like that, there's 2 kind of ways that could go depending on what's going to happening there. But
my strong suspicion, based on how incomplete the game feels to me,
is a lot of it's unfinished, and a lot of that is going to get finished.
Yes,
yeah. So
absolutely.
I think there's some merit to the idea that there's going to be a lot of content, just simply because of that. I feel like a lot of the game does kind of feel rushed in certain aspects. So if they did cut content to make it fit and make it work, all they would have to do is let's say there's another area that's like 60% or 70% done, and they just had to cut it, or new NPCs or quest lines or things of that nature that they just cut or from time constraints. But to draw a parallel, think about like all the extra stuff that Shiva. Is it Shiva in Dark Souls 1?
The Dark Souls 1, the whole cut side quest with the Chaos
with the
Blade
world and the Chaos Blade and the other Invasion Stone and all this kind of stuff, right? Now imagine they just, all they had to do is go and finish that, finalize, and put it into the game, and that was their new expansion. I mean, it's not a lot of effort. They could technically do it pretty quickly, and there would be a lot of content to add. So, because this game feels rushed, it may be the case that there's just stuff that's not finished that they're finishing, and they're just going to add it as a big content option. So even though it's early in the game's life, we're getting all this stuff, maybe there actually is going to be quite a bit of content.
Well, and that would not be without precedent, because that's exactly what happened with the Artorias of the Abyss DLC for Dark Souls 1. Miyazaki came out and made a public statement that all of that content was originally supposed to be part of the base game, but that due to time and budget constraints, they weren't able to get it in time, so they ended up retconning it later as DLC, and what I think was a really, overall, very good quality DLC. On the other hand, that...
Wait, that was original? That was supposed to be in the
Yes,
original
it was.
game?
It was indeed.
The Sanctuary Guardian is in the game's original concept art, and so is
and so is Chester.
Yeah,
like,
so
that
is
was
Chester.
all. That was all.
Yeah, but
True,
they weren't able to realize it because they didn't leave themselves enough time for development, and they had publication stuff and all of the other stuff that happens, and that went on to again with Dark Souls 2.
Well, also, sorry to interrupt again, but also
ahead.
consider Demon Souls. That broken archstone wasn't intended to be broken. There's a whole fucking area, and Gibbed even got into it.
Thanks
right?
to Gibbed, yeah. We now know.
So, I mean, without knowing that existed, we kind of all just assumed, oh, there's just a broken archstone, whatever,
Well, I think some people, even from the start, took a look at that and said, no, wait a minute, there's something fishy about that.
But the game still felt complete. But yeah, there was this ton of extra content that was never finished. So let's say they had gone about it where they finished it and added it as DLC. Like, that seems very similar to what happened in Dark Souls 1 with the Artorias of the Abyss. It could be very similar to what happens in this game, because you got to understand that if you want to go like A team versus B team, this is, they were 2 for 2 in doing that. Basically, they just happened to also release it as an expansion for Dark Souls 1. So maybe this will be 3 for 3 with Bloodborne.
Well, and it also depends upon how not only how much content it contains, but upon the price to value. Because, like, if you look at the Northern Limit Archstone in Demon Souls, which, thanks to Gibbed, we now know that that's the name of that area, the Northern Limit. I would pay something like another $5 to have that DLC added to Demon Souls, and I know a lot of people probably would as well. But, like, if it comes time for the expansion for Bloodborne to hit PSN, and they want like full price for it or something, another $20-$30 and it's just a weapons pack of a bunch of weapons that didn't get finished in the game. I
just don't see that happening, though. Like,
I hope not.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't think it's that likely. My suspicion is that it'll be more like Artorias of the Abyss, where they come out and say, look, guys, I think it's time for us to reveal this. We didn't want to. We wanted to finish this, didn't have time, but we're releasing it now for a fairly reasonable price. I hope. I really hope.
So I've been hearing. So some people have speculated that this is gonna. I don't know if there's just was bitterness or what. Said this is just gonna be a Chalice dungeon pack.
Oh, someone posted a comment on my channel the other day that says the expansion is going to patch out the base game and it'll just be Chalice dungeons. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No.
Please no.
Yeah. No. Exactly. No. But if let me make this clear. If they did something that legitimately improved the Chalice dungeons and gave them genuine uniqueness and replayability, I would be all for that. Like, to make the Chalice dungeons worth going through after your first character, fine. But, like, my biggest issue is, after doing one character's worth of Chalice dungeons, I don't want to ever touch them again on a second character, much less 9 more, you know?
Well, how about if, I mean, I don't see this being something that's going to happen, but what would you say if the materials for Chalice dungeons, the Chalice dungeon unlocks to begin with, because they are separated, I guess, from the main game, and they are separated from the new game plus cycle, what if they were just global across your account? So you make a new character, you have access to all the materials that you've accumulated, you have access to all the chalices that you've accumulated, and now you just have... all you have to do is be strong enough to fucking do the Chalice dungeons.
I've heard this question asked before. It's, I think, roughly a 75% valid option. The only problem with it is that my main issue with the Chalice dungeons in principle is that they wall off some fairly crucial elements of character progression behind the dungeons. Like, if you want more than one blood rock per new game cycle, you have to do the Chalice dungeons. You have to. Was never that way in any Souls game. And I've had a lot of people ask me, well, how is that different from having to farm Dark Wraiths in New Londo to get slabs? First of all, you can get to the New Londo Dark Wraiths in under an hour, without having to slog through a week's worth of Chalice dungeons, and all you have to do is put on the ring you get from Sen's Fortress, the Covetous Gold Serpent Ring, and inside an hour, you've got easily enough chunks and slabs to max out at least one weapon, maybe more. It does not require copious amounts of grinding. It does not require you to clear your way through 5 or 6 dungeons of increasing difficulty just to access the area where slabs drop. It does not require you to go through ridiculously unreasonable amounts of invested time for such low chance of getting, like, even after this patch, the only bosses that drop blood rocks, as far as I can tell, are those on the 3rd and 4th floors of a dungeon. So first of all, you have to clear your way to the floor 3 boss, then you have to beat the floor 3 boss, and even with all 3 eye runes, there's still only probably a 1 in 10 chance that you're going to get a blood rock. And that gets into my issues with the fact that item discovery is tied to arcane rather than to insight. But, like, it's just so unreasonable.
Item discovery is tied to arcane?
Item discovery is
Wait,
tied
what?
to arcane, yes.
I haven't paid attention to this stuff yet.
Yeah, no, item discovery is tied to arcane. So if you are not using a build that has to level arcane, which the majority of players, I dare say, are not, then you're effectively penalized for not leveling arcane by having gimped item discovery. Let me put it this way. All 3 eye runes with base arcane give you about 320 item discovery out of a max achievable item discovery with 99 arcane of around, I think, 410 to 450,
Well,
somewhere
you know
in
what
that
the solution
range.
to that is, right?
Does that affect quality of drop?
I was gonna say, you know what the
Frosty.
solution to that is? We change our level 110 meta to 150 and put those 40 points into arcane, so everybody's running around with 50 arcane.
Thanks, Brandon. That's a great idea.
So.
I'll never let him live that down. Knutaf, sorry. What were you going to chime in with something actually serious?
How dare you?
I was just going to ask, does the item discovery affect the quality of gems that you get dropped?
Yes. Well, it affects the rate at which better quality gems drop.
Okay.
It also has a massive effect on your blood rocks. According to a number of the reports from people who have tested it on Reddit, having max item discovery via high arcane and all 3 eye runes reliably results in abyssal blood gems dropping on the 3rd and 4th floor bosses. Whereas I've tested it personally without the eye runes, and I'll be lucky if I see anything other than a piece of shit gem from, so the arcane difference alone is very significant. I think item discovery should be tied to insight, just as it was tied to humanity in Dark Souls 1. Insight is accessible to everybody, and I think, Frosty, you mentioned this before, that because insight doesn't really decrease, you don't lose it when you die, you only really lose it by getting sucked by a brain sucker or by spending it, it's more reasonable to have a higher insight total, like 60 or 70, in order to max out your item discovery that way. But don't tie it to a stat that not everyone is going to level, for God's sake. This is what I mean about innovation. The game innovates in a lot of ways, but item discovery being tied to arcane is a step back to Demon Souls, where it was tied to luck, which, unless you were using a blue blood sword, was a fucking worthless stat.
Now you just make a large sword of searching build, and then you're golden. Well, but the other hilarious thing about luck in Demon Souls is it was actually detrimental for certain things. I forget the specifics of it. It's been so long, but I think it increased the chance of specific things dropping. Specifically, the higher luck you had, the more often you would be getting like shitty drops,
grass and stuff.
You get more of that, but you'd lower the chance that you got like a rare.
Because it didn't affect stuff like pure Bladestone. I don't think, did it? Come to think of it.
So you actually, if you were trying to
this.
farm pure Bladestones, you actually wanted really low luck. You wanted to go pure black. You wanted to use a large sword of searching, and you wanted no fucking luck as possible, right?
Yep.
So.
Because the large sword of searching was just a flat 100% increase to your item
There's some-
discovery,
something
not
like
to
that.
your
I
actual
forget,
luck.
I forget the specifics of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's been so long.
Sorry, I'm
That's
back.
okay. Welcome back. Your cat's going nuts again?
Oh, there he goes again. They go and they play next to the surge protector
God.
with all the wires and everything. And they fight on the surge protector. So at any moment, one of them's gonna flip that switch and everything's getting shut off. And I keep grabbing them, telling them no, like get out of it, but they keep going back, and I can't.
You got to get yourself
I can't stop them.
Get a little box to put that in, like a chicken wire.
Oh no, I'm getting. Right now, I have basically
Don't
a
use
big
chicken wire.
coffee
That's
table. I have like a big coffee table that's where all my setup is. But I'm going like in the next few days to get like a legit computer desk with cabinets. I can put everything in and just seal them off. Because right now the wires are just all over the floor and stuff. They already peed on them
Make
once,
sure you
so.
peeing on electric wires. That sounds like something the idiots in my old school would have done.
It was well, it was on. Luckily, it wasn't on like the surge protector. It was very close to it, but it wasn't on it. So I cleaned it as best I could. But after finding that, and I was just like, you know what? I think we're getting a computer desk with some cabinets and
Make sure that those cabinets.
I can't handle this.
Make sure
anymore.
those cabinets are really well ventilated, though, because you don't want an electrical fire.
Yeah. Just something I can just seal it away and they can't get to it.
Yep. Oh, man, my condolences. That's what happens when you adopt kids. Oh, God.
Damn
But,
it.
yeah, I don't know. What were we talking about?
How about this?
I don't know.
We kind of brought up a lot of things. I guess most of the complaints were just, there's this new patch, and while there's a lot of good things that the patch does, we kind of focused on, well, there's still these problems that haven't been addressed yet, right? The matchmaking system.
That we don't know if ever will be addressed.
Well, let's speculate a little bit. What would you...
Okay. Oh, here we go.
Well, no. Like,
get ready, everybody. We're getting in there.
Well, new expansion, new changes. What kind of stuff would you like to see happen to fix issues that you see in the game?
Lots of new weapons.
I'm totally with you on that. Yes.
That's basically
That's a no-brainer. I think we can all agree on that.
New weapons, and I would love some kind of meat to the Covenant system, but I like I said earlier, I don't see them doing that because that's them admitting their mistake from the beginning.
Well, I will gladly join you, Peeve, in wishing for that, because there's almost no point to having the Oath Rune slot in the first place. It's like, I'm more Covenants.
I would also
go ahead. That's fine.
Sorry,
no,
continue. I was gonna say the only other thing that I could consider is maybe make it to where the DLCs are like permanent nightmare areas that they don't, or the Bell Maidens or somewhere where you can't get to them or something, because the entire game is so just barren in terms of PvP that I feel like the DLC areas better be, like, in my mind, they need to be PvP driven areas.
So
otherwise, and just making a nightmare area and planning one Bell Maiden, just that's not going to cut it. It's going to be the same crap as it is
I
now.
would add to that, Peeve, because I agree with you that I want them to do something about that. I would suggest the alternate solution: remove Bell Maidens entirely, go back to the previous invasion system of non-consensual. However, add the option to use password matching for invasions so that you can arrange fight clubs at will.
Well, you can do that with
You can abuse it, but only in the Hunter's Dream. And that's the thing, like, if you want to arrange a fight club in a nice, wide, open area, you can't. The Hunter's Dream is really cramped, and you can't even use the boss room in the Hunter's Dream, because if you're going to be invading someone, there'll already be a boss in there.
Oh, and I tried doing that. I took Lobos's technique I saw him do on stream. I beat Gehrman, and then I quickly quit out of the game. And then I started it up again, and I did like a running jump, and then I quit out. And I kept doing that until I got to the stone, one of the stones, and I warped out of the area after Gehrman was already dead. Without
triggering the fight
I didn't
after
use
Gehrman?
the umbilical. Well, I didn't do the umbilical cords, so there was no fight. So basically, I escaped being sent into New Game Plus, and I went back to the Hunter's Dream, and I could roam around freely. But the thing is, it actually did what I was hoping. I was hoping it would make it to where you it would trick the game into thinking there's no way in hell anyone is gonna escape going to New Game Plus. So let's just leave it as if there's a boss here, because it doesn't matter. Which it did. I was able to summon in 2 players.
Weird.
After Gehrman was already dead and there was no extra boss, I summoned in 2 players into my Hunter's Dream with no boss to fight. And my plan was to have someone come in through the Nemesis system and let them fight in the courtyard, in the field. And I knew from watching Lobos, I knew I couldn't step foot in there, because the moment you step foot
you cross
in
the
there,
threshold for that event.
you're there for like 2 seconds, and then it sends you in a New Game Plus. So I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my god, this is it. It's gonna work. And I was pointing for them to go through the gate, which was open. There was no fog wall. But the thing was, the moment they went to try to go through, they couldn't, and I realized on their end there was a fog wall. Kind of like that's what happens in Bergenworth. Like you don't see a fog wall on the door.
That happened to you, didn't it? When you got summoned by or was it Brandon? He got summoned and he was outside of the fog wall, and the guy wanted him to come in, and the guy was inside, but he didn't know that he had to start the fight for Brandon to be able to walk in, and so he sent him home.
Yeah. So on their end, as a host, it looks like they're just standing in the doorway, but on the summons end, they see a fog wall. So it was that, and I realized it wasn't going to work. So I just walked in, and I don't know if they got to see me trigger the final cutscene or what. Maybe they got to watch it too. I don't know.
They probably got trapped in your world when you went to New Game Plus.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I went into New Game Plus with the 2 Phantoms just sitting there like, all right, let's go fight Gehrman. But
maybe they see the
there was no Gehrman to fight. Yeah, maybe they got to watch the credits.
You doomed them to limbo. You did what you did to Brandon in that last episode of Oro and Peeve.
Oh yeah. I
Trapped.
I actually wish that's where we left it, but that's another story.
Oh god, yeah.
Then again, I did like episode 9 a lot, so I'm glad it continued.
That was fantastic.
But yeah, what were we talking about?
About what we would change, like what would we like them to do to fix stuff?
Weapons and covenants.
I would add. In addition to what's already been said, because I'm totally with you and Knutaf on those points, I would like them to add a place where you can farm blood chunks and rocks in the main game without having to go to Chalice dungeons and without having to fight one boss every hour for a single chance at a blood rock drop.
Yeah.
Give us something like the Dark Wraiths in New Londo. That's all I ask.
Like some risk involved, but not... Like
strong enemies, but not like the freaking Upper Cathedral Ward where they drop 1 chunk every hour if you're lucky.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble with that.
Like, if the Upper Cathedral Ward Scourge Beasts dropped blood rocks, then I would be okay with it if they'd maybe bump up the blood chunk drop rate. I wouldn't mind that farming loop so much, but, just give us something comparable to the Dark Wraiths.
Yeah, and to just to really quick add on something you said about removing the Bell Maiden stuff. I don't see them doing that. It's like built into the lore. They're not gonna.
It's not built into the lore so tightly that they couldn't remove it, though. The Bell Maidens are just crazy Pthumerians.
You still have the Bell Maidens be like kind of the necromancers they are, like in the Chalice dungeons, right, where they summon a ton of the
that's
stupid
fine.
Fucking red spiders and shit, but you can just. You could just remove the functionality of them being the mechanic for invading or not invading to something else. Yeah.
Considering that they exist as a normal enemy in the game, do you think it was intended to work a different way than they decided to cave to pressure from quote unquote casual part of the community? And just like they were like, oh, here you go, this is now part of, but it's the exact same model as an enemy in the game. Like they could have thrown in a werewolf ringing a bell.
Well, here's the thing. I think that it has more to do with the fact that President Miyazaki had not much to do with the PvP balance. I don't know if you've read the interview in the guide, but when we asked him about that, he pretty much flat out came out and said, he didn't really deal much with the PvP balance. There was a separate dedicated group in the development team.
Wow.
Well, no. Like a subdivision, like a PvP team, as it were.
Kind of like Bungie has. They have guys that work on the multiplayer, and they have guys that work on the story.
Exactly, very much like that. Yes, and that those people dedicated handled the PvP balance, and that President Miyazaki didn't really have a direct hand in it, much the same as he didn't really have a direct hand in the Chalice dungeons, which is sorely apparent, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But so I think that that's more like the stuff that he did design. It shows he did all of the level design for the main game. He designed those maps personally. And that's why the level design with all the shortcuts and stuff in the main game is so damn good. Like, the man knows how to lay out maps. It's something that he's great at.
Didn't he also design Dark Beast Parl, like, entirely?
That I don't know. I don't remember him saying anything about that.
I believe
Somebody was saying that on a stream yesterday.
I believe Vadi confirmed that in some way. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I've been hearing. I haven't seen the video or the
I've
reasoning,
not heard it,
but
I'll have
I've
to
accepted it as fact just because Dark Beast Parl's design it's beautiful. I don't care if you're like, oh, well, he's easy. I beat him first try. I don't give a damn. That if you watch him roar up and like arches back and roar up and that shriek rings out and then like all the static and then whenever he gets dropped and like all of his hair falls down and he scurries away,
the lightning dissipates.
It's terrifying. Yeah, it's terrifying.
He walks on his toes.
It's an amazing it's an amazing I absolutely love that boss design. Yeah, it's my favorite. I said it earlier today. It's my favorite like design for a boss. Like I'm gonna go ahead and say ever. It's not necessarily my favorite boss fight, but the design behind it is amazing, which is why one of my kittens pissing on everything is named Parl. It's actually Dark Beast Parl is in my house pissing on my wires.
Well, it won't hurt him then, will it?
Miyazaki designed my cat to piss on everything.
Dark Beast Parl pisses on all the wires. That's why he's electrically charged.
That's what caused it.
The secret, right? So, no, I'm totally with you on that. Like, mechanically, I think the fight suffers mainly from the camera and also from the fact that it's just really, really hard to position yourself because he moves so much. You lose your lock on him most of the time.
I don't lock onto him.
Well, and even if you don't lock onto him, you end up just rolling into his face when you're trying to get under him. Like, but aesthetically and in terms of the visual design, fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing design. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, I love him.
Another boss design that I really like is Logarius, just because it harkens back so much to King Allant without being a blatant ripoff.
Oh yeah, well, you were there whenever I first encountered him.
Oh yes, I was there when
I got the memory leak and I just parried him to death. I didn't take a hit. Well, second time I died like the first attempt, but second attempt he didn't cast one spell. I didn't know he had spells.
No, well, that's the unfortunate thing about that. But that's what I mean. Like,
but yeah, it's an amazing boss fight
when it works. Yeah. God, but no, like that's the thing. That boss fight, when I went in there and I saw that it was a king in white robes and he was carrying a sword that looked reasonably like Soulbrandt. I know it looks more like the Drake's sword. I get that, and I don't disagree. But just that I was like, oh my god, it's an actual homage without being fucking Dragon Slayer Ornstein just renamed.
That was subtle enough, I think. Yeah.
It was, and I think that's one of the things that Bloodborne did really well, was the more subtle homages to the previous games. Like, Patches was a spider, he wasn't just another dude with a tower shield and a spear.
Spider
But his name was actually Patches.
Spooder Pooches.
In the credits,
yes,
it says Spider Patches.
Yeah. Patches
no,
the spider.
it says Spider-Man Patches in the credits, I think, Peeve.
I thought it was Patches the spider.
Same thing.
Or something like that.
The thing is, like, the credits aren't necessarily canon names. Like, the credits say, for the lonely old woman, they say lonely old deer. But the list, the list of official names we were given by FromSoft to print in the guide, if I remember correctly. Oh, now great. Now I'm getting it. If I'm not remembering correctly, I'm going to get slapped for violation of NDA. I'm fairly sure. I'm fairly sure the list of official names that we printed in the guide has the lonely old woman as lonely old woman, whereas the credits say lonely old deer. The point is, the names in the guide, we got a list from FromSoft that was what we were supposed to print, and some of the names in the guide differ from the names in the credits.
So what did you get for patches?
We got Patches the Spider, I think.
Okay.
Pretty sure that's what it says.
I think. I've got a copy of the guide here.
So they did call him Patches. Anyway, I think that's a little weird.
I call him Spider Patches.
I call him Spooter Pooches just because the old, remember the old Don't Cry Spoderman thing?
Yeah. Spooter Pooches.
Yeah, Pooches. It just, there's something poochy about him. Like you see him with his little spider body and you want to give him a biscuit or something. Like a fly biscuit. I don't know. Don't look at me like that. I know you're looking at me like that. You can't even see me, but I know you're looking at me like that.
You're not wrong.
See, I know these things.
Ow! God damn it!
Again with the cats?
Yeah, Parl just attacked my earbuds.
You better
scratch me.
You better get ready for when he's fully grown and starts covering himself in lightning, Peeve.
And speaking of Patches, the other one is named after Patches as well. So
Patcha!
So
you named him after the Patches Kappa emote, Peeve.
Well, yeah, but that's because she's white. So she's like white fur. So I named her Patcha because it's like, it's like the Kappa Patches that I have as an emote. So I figured, and there's lots of cats named Patches. That's like a cat name. So I figured
that's
Patcha
true.
would be better.
Before Dark Souls 3 has a character called Patches the Cat.
Nice.
Yep.
Neko Patches.
2 damn trolls running around my house, but
anyway. God. Well, at least they're keeping you company. That's the important thing. That's what they're there for, right?
True.
Oh, God. So, Knutaf, we've been talking over you. Mostly I've been talking over you. I'm truly sorry. Any other changes you would make to the game?
I haven't tried. I think it's mostly. So I haven't tried doing low level stuff. So what happened to me with Dark Souls, Dark Souls 1 is that I played a lot. I made several builds, so that's the weapon stuff. And then I had a PvP stint, but not really. I don't know. I was never really that good. And I came back and I started doing low level co-op runs. That kind of became my thing. And I haven't really tried doing that yet. But I suspect that, especially for strength-based weapons, it's not gonna really be. I don't know. It might be a little bit hard. I don't know what the payoff is in terms of having a high upgrade level weapon with low stats. Is it gonna still be doable?
That's a good question.
So I want to be able to do that because it's a lot of fun, but it's not fun if you're spending all of your time hitting something because it's not fun if you're not doing enough damage. Like there has to be a good risk reward there.
I saw Lobos recently do a fist only.
That's insane. I've seen some of those. Those just look boring to me. I don't want to do 5 damage and have to hit him.
You don't want it. You want it to be fun. You don't want it to be like a grinding out challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
His Ebriatus fight, I think, was 35 minutes long.
Like that's just ridiculous. I don't have the patience for that.
That really.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Dear God, wow.
That's also the reason I've never done like a Soul Level 1 run, or I'll probably never do a Blood Level 4 run or something.
I'm the same way. I want to do, if I do a challenge run, I want it to be a fun challenge that adheres to my play style, which is why I have Mercenaries in Dark Souls 1, cool. Sinister challenge run in Bloodborne. And whenever I go through Demon Souls, I'm in human form the whole time, in just telling the chat, like the viewers, to invade me as much as they can. So those are quote unquote challenge runs for me. But something where it's like you have to, it gets to the point to where it's not even fun anymore, and it's not fun anymore, and it's just about having it for the sake of quote unquote challenge. I can respect it, but I don't want to do that. That's why I've never done a Soul Level 1 run.
I don't want it to be. I have to execute perfectly. I want there to be room for mistake, but still, I don't know. Still
kind of tough.
Yeah.
But yeah. It basically boils down to the fact that I know if I do a soul level 1 run, I'll eventually get it done, you know, but I don't want to do a challenge just for the sake of saying I did the challenge. You know, I want it to be fun throughout. That's how I look at those.
Well, that's how I got involved in Marcus's boss challenge series way back, because, you know, they were fun.
Oh, I did his Flame Lurker challenge. I did it. It was fun.
Yep. Yeah. No, I did the same one, the Flame Lurker.
That was a good one.
That was fantastic.
What was it?
It's
Do you not-
level 30 or lower, all melee, heal no more than 4 times or something like that.
Yeah, and no weapons upgraded above.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
like +3 for a normal weapon or +1 for an elemental one.
Huh.
Good little challenge.
Yeah, it was great. And it encouraged other people to join in and upload their videos of it and show how awesome they were. My proudest moment, I think, in terms of what I've accomplished was on a base level thief in Dark Souls 1 with I think it was a base level bandit's knife and just the red tear stone ring. I beat the 4 kings.
Nice.
Wow.
And that
Yeah,
was for
that's
one of
pretty
Marcus's challenges.
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, but that's exactly it. Like, it's not the sort of challenge that's going to obligate me to an entire playthrough with no weapons. It's just one boss fight that, yes, I might have to bash my head on it for a little while, but I'm getting better each time. And when it's over, and I'm done. I'm happy I can upload the video and be like, hey, yeah, I participated. It was great.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not bad. And I'm nothing against anyone who does like soul level 1 runs or anything like that.
totally.
It's just it doesn't, to me personally, it's not like that's not a fun
dare you,
challenge
Peeve.
I care to
How
do.
Well,
dare
That's
you,
a
Peeve.
it's a challenge. It's a challenge, yes, but is it an enjoyable challenge throughout? No, because you're banging
But
your head against the wall.
maybe people like that, huh?
Well, this is you're onto something, both of you. You've brought up a very important point that I think really encapsulates what so many people love about the Souls games, up until Bloodborne anyway, where Bloodborne gets a little bit more pigeonholy, but the Souls series itself, they really allowed you to pretty much play whatever way you wanted. They didn't force you, up until Dark Souls 2, just when acquiring certain weapons became problematic early on, and you only had a few options to work with for a while. But one of the things that overall the Souls games did very well was allowed you to use whatever play style you want, not force you to approach a particular boss fight or combat situation in one way and only that way. It allowed for a great deal of variation in play style. You could approach it with a shield if you wanted to casual it out, or because I hate shields, I would always run in with just a great sword held in 2 hands, and that was okay because that was viable too. Like, they really have, they really did a great job with that up until Dark Souls 2. Once you start accessing a variety of weapons, okay, but in Dark Souls 2, so many of the weapons are just worthless because in each category, and Frosty, you've talked about this before as well, that there's a definitive weapon in each category that is just the best, and you should always use that one. In Bloodborne, unfortunately, I fear that partly due to the lack of variety of the weapons, but also partly because there's just so little build diversity.
There's essentially one weapon type of each, like
Yeah, but
one
it's a
great sword,
type.
one
I
this,
mean,
one that.
I could go into this argument again, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
But
It's like they took the
It-
best weapon in each category and just made that the one weapon of that category.
Exactly. it basically boils down to you have a bunch of viable weapons in Bloodborne, but a lack of them compared to in the Souls games. It's all these weapons with similar move sets. But it's more about the stats, and whenever you make it more about the stats, then you're gonna have some that trump others entirely, and rendering a bunch of them useless.
Well, and
so
yeah.
it's like pick your poison kind of a thing.
So
Well,
here's,
and
like,
go
I
ahead,
think
go
we, I can't remember if we talked about this on the last one, but the last podcast. But I think the thing that they could do, maybe with the expansion, is give you more weapons to start with. You have to go through a fair amount of the game in order to get access to more of the weapons. Like,
Yeah.
just thinking back to Dark Souls
The
1,
burial
you can
blade,
get, yeah,
the beast
for example,
claws.
like you could go at the very beginning of the game and get access to, for example, the Great Club in Dark Souls 1. You make a suicide run down there and get that, and now you have like a really interesting like variety of weapons to start with.
Or if you want the Demon's Great Hammer, take the Firebomb gift from to start
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
and just throw the Firebombs at the Asylum Demon. Boom! You've got an awesome strength weapon, you know, that you'd have
I
to...
never even considered that.
Which you can't use yet, but...
You can't... You can use it in 2 hands with only a very small investment. That's the thing. But, like... Bloodborne suffers the same problem Dark Souls 2 did with restricting the weapons that you have very early on. It wasn't as big a problem in Dark Souls 2 because there were just more weapons. But
that's a good
I don't know,
point.
it took a long time for me to get... Well, actually, I got lucky with an Ultra Great Sword drop in Dark Souls 2 from the guys in Hades. But besides that, you have to go to No Man's Wharf to get it. That's a few areas in.
In Dark Souls 2, I went... I think 20 hours with the on my first playthrough with the short sword.
Yeah, yep.
And I didn't
Sorry,
want
Peeve,
the short
the what?
sword. What? Short sword? Oh, shut up.
Short sword.
The short sword. Which I know that's the correct pronunciation, but that's what I hear. Short sword, and it sounds all stupid. But I know that's how it's actually pronounced. Anyway, the short sword.
Making fun of Peeve's Louisiana accent. Come on.
Shut up. I went through with the short sword. I'm gonna just enhance it further. I went for like 20 hours with just that until I found Ricard's rapier. And in Bloodborne, it was kind of depressing because I went through. I don't think I got another skill weapon aside from I actually found the rifle spear on my first playthrough, but I didn't care for it. I didn't care for it.
So good.
I went like all the way until Canehurst.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I made it to Canehurst, which is pretty much near the end of my first playthrough, and I found the Rider Palash, whatever.
Yeah.
And I found it, and the Chikage. It's like, oh my god, finally new skill weapons. It's about damn time.
And come to find out, the Chikage
decided,
is skill and blood tinge.
Yeah, and so is the Rider Palash. And I was
not
like,
in the same way. It's not as obnoxious, but I won't interrupt with that.
Well, yeah, but I was. Point is, out of the very few skill weapons I had or that exist, I like the cane the most, and so I was like, huh. Well, okay, so I went through the whole game with the cane, and it turns out I will forever stay with.
You
the
made
cane,
a T-shirt of it.
So yeah, so I made a T-shirt of it. But yeah, I feel like it is extremely a lot like all weapons. Oops, damn it, Patcha. Like all the weapons are viable, but it's just so lacking throughout.
And how?
It's because I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
I'm sorry,
No,
just
that's
to finish
fine.
up. It's because there's no weapons from enemy drops, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the only weapon that you find, the only 2 weapons that you actually find in the game world are the Rider Palash and the Rifle Spear. Is there
are
any others I'm forgetting?
Spear?
Well, there's a saw spear in Central Yharnam, but there's a Tonitris in Yahar Ghul.
That's true.
And tonight, okay, so there's
There are
a few,
but not many.
Point is, you're not going to get any crazy drops, and I feel like that kind of really hurt things because there's no point. That may have taken away from a lot.
The badge system too, like some of those badges you get so late in the game that by the time you unlock those weapons, you've already built your character around one of the starting weapons. And that's another thing. Like that's so many people just end up using one of the 3 starting weapons for the entire game because by the time you get something better, you're already set up for that. You've already dumped your very limited bloodstone chunks, maybe even a blood rock into one. And like the Burial Blade, you get at the fucking end of the game, literally the end of the game, the Beast Claws, not unless you do the Chalice dungeons. So this game has the problem that Dark Souls 2 had with lack of weapons early on in spades. And granted, it's also partly just due to the few weapons that are in the game, which again is why I agree with all of you guys that I hope they add more. But in general, my point was just that the overall... the lack of build diversity as a result of all of these factors, I think just it hurts replayability Because you
Yeah.
want to, and if you want to try a new weapon, fuck you. Do Chalice dungeons for a week. You want to
really
get
don't
another
like
one
the
to
Chalice
plus 10?
dungeons. Jesus. Anyways.
Well, no, the Chalice dungeons were okay until I realized that if I wanted to get a bunch of weapons to plus 10, okay, let me put it this way. I, of all people, don't have quite as much right to complain about this from a certain point of view, since I had access to debug and I could try out whatever plus 10 weapon I wanted. Other players do not have that.
Cheater.
Other players do not have that luxury. So in principle, I think my point still stands.
It's possible.
Sorry, I'm fighting two cats off. They're trying to eat my earbuds.
Yeah, I think I might actually
Continue.
have to go. I've been here for. I didn't get to come at the start. I don't know when you guys started, but
Yeah, we've been going for a little while.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, man.
no, not at all. I mean, I enjoyed it. I just I have to some other stuff.
I wish I had shut up a little more and let you talk more.
Not at all.
Nonsense.
You have interesting things to say. I didn't have as much to say, honestly.
Well, I suppose this is a good time as any to end it. Thanks, everybody, for
I
hanging out.
didn't mean to
It
do
was a lot of
that,
fun.
but
We will say ta-ta for now.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure.
yeah, it was great.
I'm sure we'll have a lot of stuff to talk to very shortly. So.
Oh yeah, fingers crossed.
Yep. Hope so.
Yes, indeed.
Anyways, before I get in trouble for saying things that I shouldn't be saying,
No,
we'll see you
I
guys
don't
next
think
time.
that you won't. You won't.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.